in brightest day, in blackest night. All other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellow scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Mark face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light.
Hi everybody, I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 234.
Yay!
A step up from Threshold.
Yes. We are doing October books. That means Green Lantern 45, Green Lantern Star Trek number 4, Lost Army number 5, Sinestro number 16, and Lobo number 11. 11. Yes. Sorry, Lobo 12 came out today.
That is true.
But Mark's going to kick us off with Green Lantern number 45, the final showdown with Black Hand, which is funny because it's not.
Yeah, because because the very next issue is Relic joins the final showdown with Black Hand. That's funny. I mean, it's not funny because I figured you were going to pick up on it, but that's one of the things that I picked up on too. When you see that, besides the natural reaction to laugh when you see the final anything in comics, because it makes you want to go ha ha ha, because you damn well know it wouldn't be no matter what. But it's just a funny thing that it doesn't even resolve the story arc, since it's in the issue that came out today. So it's Green Lantern 45. As Chad said, the title on the cover says the final showdown with Black Hand, and of course, ha ha ha. It's not. The creative team is Robert Venditti, the writer, penciler Billy Tan, inker Mark Irwin, colorist Alex Sinclair, letterer Dave Sharp. So, basically, the issue begins on Inspector 3052. You have Virgo and Trapper pretty much chilling on this beautiful planet because Hal's kind of like left them behind to go do his own thing. And this kind of follows the narrative structure of the past few issues, where it kind of keeps jumping between where we are currently and where we were earlier. So this is where supposedly we are now, and then it pops to and as they're talking about, as Virgo is talking about, I wonder where Hal is. I hope he had a good reason to leave us. It's a nice double splash page of Hal basically going toe to toe with Black Hand, but he's basically using energy constructs to hold on to kind of like lock hands with Black Hand, because as we find out later on that even Black Hand's powers are so screwed up now he can even turn energy constructs to stone. This guy's all kinds of screwed up. So now if again following the narrative structure, now we flip back to earlier, where they're on Darlene, and basically Hal is having Darlene basically follow Black Hand's trail of damage and basically project where he's going to go next. Virgo and Trapper pretty much are, at the end of the day, once Hal gets his coordinates, he pretty much tells them that he's kind of got to do this on his own, and you guys just more or less you stay with Darlene, she's in charge, you go where she goes. The only order I'm not giving her is to not follow me. And of course Darlene's all pro, like, I'll follow that to the letter, because she doesn't want to go anywhere with Hal to begin with. Virgo and Hal have a cute little moment, because Virgo is kind of sensing at this point he's got a good idea of who Hal is and what his makeup is. And as he so eloquently puts, it's like, I've known people like you. You can't stop intervening like it's a compulsion. And Virgo's basically looking for answers, and he's just trying to figure out what's going on with Hal, and like, what does it matter to you if one more planet turns to stone? It's a large universe of planets, planets to go around, and Hal's kind of being the real Green Lantern that he is. You know, it isn't supposed to be this way. The Corps is supposed to be, it's supposed to be basically chasing me, reclaiming his good name, and now everything's gotten screwed up. Plus, he just can't let this Black Hand's what he's doing continue unchecked. And he just kind of make a deal as Virgo, as he refers to Virgo as pretty much the closest thing he has to as a friend right now. Though once he gets back, whatever anything you want to ask me, I'll answer it honestly. But for now, I gotta go. I gotta go do what I gotta do. So if I'm alive at the end of this, then you have me. So we go to Space Sector 2819, where, as it says, moments ago it was a thriving world, but now everything's turned to stone because Black Hand, of course, was there. He's kind of lamenting, he's never going to get to play with the dead again. It's like, what happened to me? And of course, then Hal kind of being cloaked, again, kind of reminds me Spectre-esque. Hal's kind of like, I think I might have an idea and I'm going to fix it. And insane Black Hand being the way he is like, no teasing? Can it be like before? Like, can it go back to normal? Like, normal for you? Well, maybe. Black Hand's kind of lamenting again, what's going on, and Hal's trying to convince him again, keeping his face covered at this point, even though you think Black Hand would kind of pick up on the green energy signature, at least noticing that alone should get his spider sense going off. But Hal basically wants Black Hand to follow him and stop touching stuff. We're going to go back to the source wall. I think we can probably figure out what's going on and maybe work around the this issue. Black Hand now starts getting nervous, but he asks who you are, and Hal just has a friend, and he goes, I don't have any friends, not that any that aren't dead. And then at this point it's like he's refusing to follow Hal, and then Hal removes the cloak and goes, I'm not a stranger, Black Hand, it's me, Hal Jordan. And then that kind of freaks Black Hand out, and basically the next few pages, I should say, are confrontation between Hal and Black Hand, including the fact that Hal now realizes the extent of what Black Hand can do, because Black Hand kind of like knocks some of the frozen in stone, turned to stone corpses at Hal. Hal puts up an energy construct to block it, and as soon as the body of the turned to stone corpse hits his energy construct, it starts turning to stone. So then Hal now realizes that this is probably even worse than he thought, and Hal and Black Hand pretty much play this game back and forth. They duke it out for a while. They in the middle of this fight, they cut back to Virgo and Trapper and Darlene, just about enjoying the moment, smelling the roses, even the whole idea of just embracing the moment, almost like a little vacation for them, which is contrasted nicely with the fact that Hal is really fighting for his life at this point, trying to figuring out a way to get Black Hand under control. Black Hand, Hal finally, decks Black Hand with a huge energy construct fist. He makes an energy construct wrecking ball pretty much, and he takes him out, letting go of the construct before it gets back to him to turn him to stone. So Black Hand's out cold, and at this point, pretty much Hal just says, you're a monster, Hand. You live and everyone else dies. It's time I buried you for good. And next issue, the end of the Black Hand. I think we're willing to bet that won't be the end of the Black Hand, regardless.
I don't know. Did you read it today?
I only saw the few pages of the preview. I had dinner planned, so I wanted to stop to get my books today, but I didn't. So I'm going to try to get them tomorrow.
I don't get very many new issues anymore, like hard copies. I too wanted to stop by the LCS today though, and not get Green Lantern 46, but get Scooby-Doo Team Up number 13 because it's a team up with the Spectre, Phantom Stranger.
Oh, that's where that panel's from. Okay.
Yeah, the Spectre, Phantom Stranger, and Deadman team up with the Scooby and the gang. I'm like,
there's a natural team up.
Hell yes, please. But anyways,
did you read Green Lantern?
Yes, I did read it. I read the digital version of it.
Non-spoilery, was it interesting at least?
No.
I didn't think so. I was afraid you were going to say that. Not surprised, but I was. But it's all right. You don't have to go. I mean, I'll know.
No. I'm just kind of starting because I'm reading this, looking at this with you digitally, so I was just getting back to the first page. Well, first of all, before we even get into the story, the villains or the monsters variant cover. Did you see that?
For
Monsters
which?
of
For
for
what?
this issue.
Oh, for Green. Oh no, I don't think so. For Green Lantern 45?
Yeah, Green Lantern 45 had a variant cover. It was October was their Monsters of the Month variant cover month. This is an homage to, oh God, I'm the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, quote unquote expert, and I don't know the issue number off the top of my head. The introduction of John Stewart, where it's John Stewart holding a
Yeah,
beaten
Hal, right.
unconscious Hal, and it says, they whipped the Green Lantern. Now let's see if they can whip me. That whole thing.
Yes.
But it's John Stewart on the ground, and he's being dragged along by a zombie Hal Jordan.
No, I don't think they pulled the. Speaking of which, now you raised another concern for me because I know this was the today's issue of Green Lantern was the Marvin the Martian variant cover, so I'm kind of gonna. So I'm
Yes.
really of all the covers, especially since I'm a big Marvin the Martian guy too. If they didn't pull that one for me, I'm gonna kind of be disappointed. But I guess I'll find out tomorrow.
No, I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. And it looks like the variant might be by Neil. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't think they pulled that one for me.
Monsters variant cover, Neil Adams and Alex Sinclair. Yep, because I see it looked like Neil. So yes, this is absolutely a shout out to that first appearance of John Stewart. So that's cool.
I know it was a
That's
thrilling issue, wasn't it?
yeah. It doesn't help I had a long day at work. This the only problem I have with this, other than this is kind of a filler issue.
Yeah, there is a feel of filler to it. I was
I
just
mean,
thinking that.
stuff happens, but it's a filler. It feels like a filler issue. The only problem I have with it, other than the feel that I got from it, was I don't know about constructs being able to become stone. But then again,
Well,
it's
I
the
guess
source wall.
yeah. I was gonna say if you work from the premise that anything at all that comes into contact with the source wall or source wall material turns to stone, whether it's living tissue, whether it's machinery, whatever, then I guess it would make sense that something that's just based of energy again, if it's a solid energy construct, which is what these are, that if they come into contact with it, it would turn to stone. It's certainly up the ante for as far as making the fight more even greater stakes than usual with the fact that it's not like Hal was safe behind his energy constructs. So I did kind of like that aspect. It did kind of make it more challenging that even if he creates an energy construct and he uses that to fight Black Hand, if Black Hand touches it or it touches something Black Hand already turned to stone, the construct turns to stone, and if Hal doesn't pretty much end the construct before it starts channeling back to that final connection to his gauntlet, then he's going to be screwed.
Right, which is interesting as a concept because you see him doing cool stuff with it. Like he can't even walk across the surface of this planet without, so he creates little stepping stones out of constructs,
Right.
and those are turning into stone as he's stepping across them. So there's that. Hmm.
Yeah, that detail aspect that was pretty good. So there were some good details when it came to that.
Um. Otherwise, I don't know that there's much here, even in the stuff with Virgo and Trapper and Hal. I mean, I guess you have a nice moment like that moment you said between Virgo and Hal.
Right. There's a little bit of more bonding the three of them, especially bonding Virgo with Hal, the two that are probably have, on this from a I was like from a personality aspect of wanting to do right or whatever, that they probably have more in common when you look at the aspect maybe of and obviously from the warrior aspect, obviously Trapper and Hal have more in common. So I guess it's almost like a two sides of the coin maybe with Hal and the two parts of him, which maybe Virgo and Trapper essentially or could anyway represent. So it's kind of but yeah, there's not a whole lot there. I mean, Black Hand is cool. I still don't know if I'm in touch. I this like I've mentioned before, this goofy, insane Black Hand kind of makes me laugh at times. So I've kind of appreciated the way the character has been since they brought him back in the the Forever Evil month. That's what all those books were when they first brought him back.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't know. I still don't know if I really like this version compared to the Blackest Night version.
Now you know how I feel about Larfleeze.
Right.
They make these uber powerful characters into a joke, and there's this air of you know hilariousness at it. I mean, I guess with Black Hand, it's not as bad as they do with Larfleeze, but it looks like they're on the road to it, and I'm not cool with it. I mean, I guess Black Hand is a little out of his element, and it kind of makes sense that he'd be slowly going mad because,
Or
regard,
madder.
yeah, regardless of his connection with Death and Necron and all of that, he still was always really Earth based, and now he's just out in the stars and wandering the wastelands and not being able to do his thing, and so he is in unfamiliar territory, really, not just physical location wise, like where he's at in space, but unfamiliar territory in that he can't do the one thing that makes him feel comfortable, I guess.
Well, it certainly makes him feel complete, and it makes him, and probably the only joy he gets is out of bringing things back. So
Hmm.
the aliens on this planet look interesting. Like when he's holding that skull, like doing a last Poyuric moment. It kind of looks like an alien, like from Aliens, like a xenomorph head.
You know what it looks like?
But
Indiana Jones 4.
yeah, it does look like a crystal skull too. But then on the next page, if you look at the aliens, besides kind of looking maybe crystal skull like, it almost looks Saint Walker like too, the one that's frozen.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but yeah, so it wasn't. I mean, because it's Black Hand versus Hal, that kind of made it a pretty decent issue. But do I think there was there was anything awe-inspiring in this issue? No,
Not really.
I think it was a pretty, I think we kind of touched on. It was a pretty quick read, and the more interesting things is the way Hal had to adjust on the fly to using the energy constructs, which was pretty cool to see. And even some of the, and not just how he has to make the constructs, but just the ones that he makes are kind of cool, like the bear and stuff like that. Those are pretty cool.
The ants that are holding him up.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a pretty creative for Hal using using the ring.
Right.
And he actually doesn't look so bad in this. And when he's fighting Black Hand, he actually looks a little better than usual. From when Billy's drawn him, he looks actually pretty good in action for most of those panels. So.
All right. Anything else
No, I
for this
think that.
particular one?
No, I think with a lot of these issues, I by luck of the draw most of the issues that I have, which is fine. I mean, they're pretty much they are what they are. They're on the surface, and there's not that much to to delve into. Once you get to maybe like Sinestro, I think Sinestro there's more stuff. But
All right. Star Trek Green Lantern number 4. This is from, of course, IDW and DC Comics, written by Mike Johnson, art by Angel Hernandez, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters by Neil Utake. So we open with sort of Star Sapphire's perspective, Carol's perspective on things, a little more information on what happened before the last light that Ganthet enacted happened, basically Blackest Night Part 2. So just kind of, recapping that their universe was at an end and Ganthet did what he could to save us, but, I think in doing so, he only doomed this universe as well. And Hal's like, well, how? The Last Light protocol essentially was meant to affect only ring wielders, and Necron is the opposite of that. He's entropy. And Spock says, theoretically, entropy is an intrinsic part of every universe. If Miss Sapphire is correct, and this Necron is a manifestation of entropy, he would most likely exist in some form in every possible universe. She says he's correct, but he doesn't, he doesn't change as he moves between realities. He's the same force, and Kirk is like, well, you said you beat him once before. Why can't you do it again? And Hal says, because Necron isn't stupid. We beat him the first time thanks to Kyle Rayner, the White Lantern. Kyle had the unique ability to unite the power of all the different Lantern Corps. This time Necron took him out first before Kyle could harness the entire spectrum again.
And obviously we'll talk about that when we
Yeah.
get to the end of this issue, big time.
Yeah, Mark texted me about that before I could ever even read the issue.
Sorry, I didn't mean. Did I tell you? Did I say specifically what it was, or just
No,
just
no,
kind of
you didn't.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to overlook. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, so and Hal's like, oh, and by the way, our rings need to be recharged by batteries, which there are none because Necron destroyed them all. But hopefully your doctor can essentially repair Saint Walker, and he can keep all of us charged. But we need help basically. There's no batteries, there's no new lanterns, and Kirk's like, a no-win scenario, Jordan. You've come to the right ship. And then over on Romulus, we see Larfleeze and Decius, I guess is how you're supposed to say it.
Yeah, I think it's Decius.
Fighting against one another. Decius tries to use his Senator Lanterns to attack Larfleeze. That doesn't work because, of course, all that is orange is under Larfleeze's control. He asks Decius for more information on his territorial expansion and stuff like that, and the destiny of the Romulan Empire and all of that. And Decius warns Larfleeze about the Federation and how, for too long we have stagnated in a detente with the Federation. Ooh, I hate stagnating. Tell me, does this Federation have anything I would want? And then back over on the Enterprise, Scotty is being taken care of by Dr. McCoy, being offered, cookies and tomato soup and hot chocolate and all this stuff. And Scotty kind of remarks that McCoy is, you haven't seen me scowl once today. And he says, I guess I just feel a little more compassionate right now. You sure you don't want a cookie or anything? And he says, no, I'm good. And then you see kind of interesting panel, which I'm kind of interested to see where they go with this. And they've already got so much being covered and so much left to cover in 2 more issues. But they drop a hint here that Scotty is looking over the schematics of the rings and says, studying schematics, I've managed to scan of something that would be fascinating to replicate. And it's a scan of the rings. Carol offers to train Uhura in the use of her ring, but she says, no, I'm good. I'm still a Starfleet officer first. Captain, I'm picking up an SOS. A base is under attack by some sort of energy weapon. And Hal's like, well, that could be other lanterns. Kirk tells Chekhov to set course for the base. Hal says he'll meet him there. Flies off, and then Kirk's does that guy ever even think before he acts? And Spock says, a question which I am entirely familiar, Captain. And Kirk's like, what do you... Oh, good one, Spock. And they fly off. This base is actually under attack by Atrocitus and Glaucon. They're trying to draw the Federation out, or at least Glaucon is. Atrocitus is like, feel my wrath, and attacking all these ships. And then he's hit by a bolt of a blast of yellow energy, and it says, I've seen your full wrath before, monster. I was not impressed. And it's Sinestro and the Klingons. Several. I know enough about Star Trek. They're called warbirds, right?
Birds of prey.
Birds of prey?
Yeah.
Damn it. Did not. So yeah. So much for being cocky. They fight against one another for just a minute before Hal arrives and sucker punches Sinestro. Looks like Hal and the Enterprise arrived at the same time, so whatever. They start their atypical fight. Chekhov fires with the Enterprise onto Sinestro, amped up, of course, by his Blue Lantern energy. Sinestro takes over the Enterprise with his yellow energy and puts its entire crew in the grips of fear. This incapacitates them and knocks them out. Hal takes over the Enterprise, sits in the captain's chair, and creates a massive Enterprise construct around the actual Enterprise, ready to take on supposedly every lantern on the negative side of the emotional spectrum. And then 47 light years away, former location of the Vulcan homeworld,
Rise.
and some looks like, I guess these are Vulcans, start rising from the dirt. To be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so without sounding like I'm being a douchebag, but since it's the only way I can phrase this, what was your problem with Kyle Rayner?
Because has nothing to do with what happened in Blackest Night.
Okay. Well, elaborate. Tell people. I mean...
Well, first of all, in all honesty, Kyle's role in Blackest Night was pretty minimal, other than being killed. He was killed. He was killed and brought back, and and the biggest thing about that, besides pushing Guy onto the red side of the Force for the first time, you could say that was Kyle's true moment of being actually chosen by. That if there's any doubt, regardless of which incarnation of his origin you want to go back to, but the retcon version or the original, Green Lantern 51 version, that this is finally the Green Lantern 50 technically, that was the moment when Kyle's ring came back to him because he was worthy. He was chosen for worthiness. So but Kyle had nothing to do. Literally had pretty much nothing to do with the defeat of Necron and Blackest Night. That had to do more with, certainly had a hell of a lot more to do with Sinestro than it had to do with Kyle, and it had to do with Hal, too, because of the fact that Sinestro had the white entity in him, and then once the white entity was cut out of him, the white entity pretty much gave power to Hal and a lot of the rest of the heroes to become the temporary White Lantern Corps and everything else like that. So Kyle, first of all, Kyle wasn't even a White Lantern during Blackest Night. He was still a Green Lantern. So Kyle didn't become a White Lantern till the New 52. That was till the end of the first story arc in New Guardians. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be based on retconning the past of the New 52 universe, but even like you just said, within the New 52, he didn't become a White Lantern for the first time until 12 issues plus in.
Yeah, I think unfortunately this is an example of somebody not doing their homework. I would have to say, which is unfortunate because if anybody who's reading at all who remembers Blackest Night, it stands out like a sore thumb. It's like it makes no sense whatsoever. They could have tied it into why he took Kyle out first, because that was their ace in the hole this time. That he thought that Necron thought that even though he still had the numbers advantage this time, that Kyle's ability, basically, of course, if Kyle could use the white ring the way logically he should be able to, or you'd be able to if you had the entity in you, which is, or however you want. We've talked about the inconsistency with the White Lantern power, but White Lanterns before Kyle became one seemingly had the ability to resurrect, bringing people truly back to life. Certainly, we know the entity itself had that ability. So if Kyle had the actual ability to bring people back to life, truly back to life, then Kyle could have been a real threat on that level to begin with. Forget about bringing the emotional spectrum together. He could have equaled out the odds or took away Necron's huge advantage if he needed to. So it would make sense that Necron they could have written it so he could have. That's why he went after Kyle first, to make sure that besides harnessing the spectrum, that he was unable to possibly resurrect people or enough people from the dead to take away the advantage that Necron had. But doing it the way they did, plus even the uniform they're drawing. I mean, they're showing him in his Ion uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it would have been a hard mistake not to catch, but the fact that it happens on the third page of the book makes it kind of sours, at least for me, it soured my taste on this book, on this particular chapter right off the bat. So.
Now, so what you're saying is this could have been fixed with a different word bubble, not necessarily by changing what you're seeing here.
Yeah, they could have shown Kyle being taken out, and they could have made it. They could have explained why it was important that Kyle was being taken out, and why it probably has gotten them helped get them in the situation where they are by trying to do the retconning of Blackest Night to something that anybody who read Blackest Night, certainly Green Lantern fans who read Blackest Night, know that was completely, that is a retcon that doesn't even make sense, because again, the only I mean, yes, you could say when Hal and Superman and all those had the white, were White Lanterns momentarily during the near the final battle with in Blackest Night. Other than that, the only true White Lantern we got in that entire series was actually Sinestro. So the closest thing to one White Lantern, someone who could have technically been in charge of the emotional spectrum by being a White Lantern, and plus it also, and plus again it kind of not perverts, because we've seen how, I guess, you can become a White Lantern in more than one way. But in Blackest Night, becoming a White Lantern had nothing to do with mastering all of the emotional spectrum. It had to do with basically having power, either from the entity one way or the other. So.
I do have one qualm with the art, and it's Larfleeze.
Yeah, he does. He looks crap. He certainly looks crappy when he's. Actually, he looks crappy on every panel. Actually, I thought I was going to say that maybe he looked better on the second page, but no, he looks like a wolf, like a werewolf with like teeth hanging out of his head.
Yeah, exactly. Larfleeze does not have a flat face. He has a snout like a dog. Reread Agent Orange, his first appearance in storyline. Thank you.
And he looked better last issue too.
Yeah, he did.
Not the cover. The cover looked crappy too.
Yes.
But in the actual art, especially. But then again, we didn't get too much of a close up of him, right? We just got him from above, looking down on Decius over there.
No, I'm just saying. Every time I see Larfleeze, I'm quick to point out the people who draw him like this, because I think Monkey or somebody drew him like this, and I didn't like it then, and now everybody has been following in that step, and that is not how Larfleeze looks. Like, you can have fun with the details, but don't mess up his facial structure, okay? He is not, like, on this panel right here where he says, "Ooh, I hate stagnating," he looks like a human with horns on the side of his face, red eyes, and lots of hair.
Yeah, he's got a Sinestro-shaped head, almost. He actually looks very much like Sinestro, actually, just with a hairy face. But they tend to draw him like the Grinch now.
Yes, Larfleeze has a snout. Agent Orange, what was that? That was issues 30-something.
Yeah,
before Blackest Night.
Yeah,
reread that. Art by Billy Tan, or not Billy
Philip
Tan.
Tan.
Philip Tan. Check it out. That is how Larfleeze looks. Use it. Otherwise, and guys, I've been really, hyping up this series since it started coming out, and I'm still excited by it. It's just, details like that, and the Kyle Rayner thing bothers me a bit, but, the colors are still epic. I'm still interested. I'm still enjoying it. It's still at the top of my Lantern stack when it comes to my reading pile. So there's that. But, I'm not going to, give it a free pass on certain things just because I'm liking it so much. Otherwise, the art is pretty great throughout it. I mean, the colors are still great. There's, the weird stuff here and there. Sinestro looks amazing. There are panels where Atrocitus looks weird and panels where Atrocitus looks awesome. So, it's just like any other comic book. There's good spots and there's bad spots, but I think that this is by and large still a fun, action-packed, pretty good book. The moments between Star Sapphire and Uhura were kind of funny, especially towards the beginning where Carol calls Spock handsome.
Yes.
And Uhura's like, handsome friend, what? But otherwise it's a cool thing. A couple of things though. Hal says specifically, our rings need to be recharged by power batteries. Necron destroyed them all. Okay. What's Larfleeze holding?
That is true.
So I don't know if that's a mistake or if that's going to come into play. Regardless, I think it's worth pointing it out. Also thinks it's worth pointing out, even though I already did it during the recap. What do you think they plan on doing with Scotty and his schematics things there?
You can only assume they're going to make more rings, but see, to be fair, I think if you go back and you actually look at the picture, I think Hal's talking about the I think he means that the central power batteries were destroyed.
But Larfleeze's power battery is his central power battery.
Yeah, I know, but that's why he's probably not factoring in Larfleeze's. But besides, Larfleeze technically his battery. Well, it's still technically a mistake. Larfleeze's battery. It's not like we're in Relic's world where seemingly any battery can power any ring, uh, depending on the circumstance. And if you have enough of the same color, you can override basically the defaults and turn it. We know in our universe that up to this point it doesn't work that way. So Larfleeze having his own battery, and plus at this point they don't actually know Larfleeze made it through. They assume he made it through, right?
Yeah.
But I guess they might assume Larfleeze made it through.
Well, Hal knows at least that the orange ring has found a bearer.
Right.
And at this point, he knows Sinestro is here and Atrocitus is here.
But that's at the end of the
Carol and Saint Walker. So
yeah, I mean it's safe to assume Larf, but I'm saying at the time he's saying it, Hal hasn't physically confronted. He hasn't confronted Sinestro. He hasn't confronted Atrocitus.
But he has confronted Carol and Saint Walker.
Oh yeah, he knows that they're there. I know. I'm just saying that until the whole gang hasn't been physically brought back together yet. I mean, Indigo One's not around.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen Indigo One at all, right?
No.
So who knows if the thing that is also interesting is, which does play into current, seemingly where they're going with in the current continuity. You talk about the idea that theoretically Saint Walker could, once he's back up and running, that he might be able to recharge all of them, which goes back to the premise of what Sinestro is trying to do in his book, which is basically unlock the secrets of the blue ring, so basically it can work off of all the other rings, and basically how ideally, I guess so, in a perfect universe, not that Sinestro wants it to be for every ring, he just wants it to be for the yellows right now, but ideally the blue rings may be capable of being able to get a full charge and unleash their full capacity from any other color in the spectrum, just like they're capable of charging up every other color in the spectrum. So that's kind of what they're hinting at. I find it interesting on the inside cover page when they do the rundown of the characters. They have Carol Ferris listed as the queen of the Star Sapphire Corps, but yet Saint Walker's only a member of the Blue Lantern Corps. Not even the leader. He's a member of the Blue Lantern Corps.
Well, I think at last count, Carol was the queen of the Star Sapphires.
I don't think that's current continuity anymore. Didn't they take it away? I thought she was no longer the queen. I thought she gave it back up. I thought she did. I mean, they never gave you a panel that said that she gave it up, but I thought she was back on. I thought they showed her back on Zamaron. I think, but either way, that I can understand. Again, if you're just going by, what seems to be possibly the case here is they're kind of like cherry picking what they want from Green Lantern mythos. They kind of put this together, since maybe because it's a hype, maybe because it's almost like an Elseworlds kind of story. Maybe they're taking a lot more liberties with what's going on, even though it's weird to tie in the Blue Lantern thing then. To be, even other than that, it's a convenient out to not having any batteries. But other than that, maybe that's why they're playing a little more loose with the continuity, including the Blackest Night stuff. But I don't know.
What do you think is Sinestro taking over the Enterprise or disabling the crew of the Enterprise?
I think it's more logical that it would work on some characters more than others. I think the ones that have rings, you would think would be able to maybe put up a little greater resistance. It's kind of interesting that the only one who looks pissed is Spock. Everybody else looks like, oh my god, like but Spock is the one who looks like he's raging. Um, it was interesting. I guess I could believe it would, it could work.
Well, if
So,
anybody.
yeah, if anybody, I mean, Sinestro is pretty much the best he's like the Wolverine with the power ring, the the best there is at what he does. So,
And what I do is not very nice.
nope.
All right, anything else?
Cover was great. The Necron cover was great.
Yeah, pretty great. Looking forward to next issue still, despite the. I think that this one was definitely, while a fun issue, I think this is probably the least exciting out of the four so far, I guess.
I would
don't
agree.
know.
I would agree. And it's hard to know if I would have enjoyed it more without that glaring Kyle thing. But especially since it happened so early, it's not like it built up a lot of momentum and then it kind of hit you. But there's still a lot of, as you mentioned, there's still a lot of stuff to get done in only 2 issues.
Yes.
I mean, let's be
exactly.
honest. Last issue ended with Vulcan being reborn, even though it was the planet coming back together as a whole. So this issue just ended with people coming out of the ground now. So we still have 2 issues to deal with. What's the deal with Ganthet really? Because I don't really believe Ganthet's dead. Or he's going to stay dead. Let's put it that way. Are they going to duplicate the rings? What's going on? Indigo 1 almost had to have made it through if they had everybody else through. Why wouldn't Indigo 1 make it through?
Well, but she hasn't shown up in any, even in the flashbacks. So.
But then that's kind of a. They didn't show her in the battle scene. I would have to go
not,
back and
not,
look.
Not in this issue.
No, I know not in this issue. In this issue, they're only showing the characters that pretty much show up in this issue.
Okay,
But
so
I thought Indigo. I could be wrong, but I thought Indigo 1 was there.
In issue 3?
Yeah. Whenever they showed the last Blackest, the last HAL recap of Blackest Night, but I could be wrong. But I don't have it in front of me anymore. So
I'm pulling it up. Let's see here.
But it would still be weird. They would have to almost explain what, be an odd, almost like a convenient storytelling choice, not to have the Indigo make it through.
Okay, Indigo is in the flashback, but trying to see if there's any point where you see her fall or anything. I think it'd be kind of odd though if they have Atrocitus, Sinestro,
Right.
Larfleeze, Hal, Carol, Saint Walker,
all the new
and
Guardians, and not have
Indigo.
you almost have to think they're saving Indigo 1 for like a big moment, which maybe will come at the end of issue 6. 5, I mean, issue 5. Maybe that'll be a.
I just thought it was an odd choice for them to do the whole thing with Scotty talking about replicating the rings because it was like because of what you just mentioned about Vulcan and still having not only that but you have to get the Lantern cores to work together again because right now they're in the midst of a fight and you got 2 issues to do that and then they chose in issue 4 to go let's have Scotty replicate the rings too while we're at it. Good lord, do you not have enough to do already?
Yeah, because you would think that they would just use a transporter for that potentially. Maybe there's a way to just do that with the transporter. If they get to read, they might be able to use the transporter to make duplicates. Maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that's gonna come to fruition. But yes, we only have a few issues left to wrap this up.
All right, Green Lantern Lost Army.
Green Lantern Lost Army. It's kind of a weird cover.
Aricia looks cool.
Aricia does look cool. You can't really see much of Salak, so he kind of looks cool. John Stewart, is that supposed to be John Stewart, or the other person who? I don't know.
That's John.
It is. He looks weird, and Badge over there looks like he's like hypnotized. But that's just a reflection in his big chipmunk eyes. So of course, let's get to the creative team. Is it at the end of this book where they announce everything? Trying to find here it is. 8,000 pages into the book. Cullen Bunn, of course, is the writer, but Javier Pina, the art and color, Dave Sharp, letterer, but Guillaume March did the cover. So the issue actually begins with, I'm sure, Chad's favorite part of the book. Yes, with yet another Afghanistan flashback. About how John's been in situations like this before, outnumbered, outgunned, and out of hope, and yada yada. So you see John escaping from the Taliban, and he makes it out. Then he realizes, well, essentially, he's got to go back because of the fact that there's other people there. He can't just pretty much leave everybody else behind, and he's still got a job to do. Which, of course, now that leads directly to back into the light pirates and their prisons. And last issue, we found out that Badge pretty much thought he could find he might be able to find their rings and yada yada. So we have John, we have Jaruk, we have Salak, 2-6, Arisia, Real Vrek, and of course Badge goes, Badge goes to do his thing. We have Guy and Kilowog, who are in another prison cell after they pretty much beat the crap out of all the lightsmiths of that world. Salak and John continue to talk about, basically try to come up with a plan B just in case it doesn't really work. But of course, a few seconds later, looking extremely chubby, Badge shows up with a whole bunch of rings. Not all of them. He couldn't get them all, but he got a few. And interestingly enough, they all have most of the rings have a little bit of charge left in them. So Badge has a ring, Salak, Jon Stewart, and Jaruk put their rings on. And I guess Badge set up a construct time bomb, conveniently enough to help break them out of their prison cells. So the Lanterns break out. They start duking it out with the guards, the light pirates. Now we have a pretty cool splash page. You see the Lanterns who have the rings, along with like Kilowog and Guy, who do not have the rings, but they're all fighting to do their job. Jaruk is open up a can of whoop ass for a while. Badge protects Arisia, and Salak is kind of interesting because Salak kind of like convenient too, comes up with believes that he's got the technology that he can not only find the rest of the rings, but he probably can recharge the rings. He might be able to reverse engineer something. Basically he thinks he can reverse engineer some of the rings that were destroyed and recharge some of the ones that exist, along with the light staffs and stuff like that. One of the sad parts of the book, at least for me, unfortunately, during the fight with the light pirates, Jaruk buys it, which I didn't like because I really like Jaruk. I kind of started really enjoying Jaruk, but at the end of the Green Lantern Corps series, but he gets blasted, and Guy tries to comfort him and tries to tell him to hold on, but Jaruk just kind of really sad, just goes he would have liked to have seen home again. So now Salak pretty much has been successful. We see pretty much all the Lanterns and all the Lanterns and or lightsmiths have some form of weapons back, and it's kind of cool because Kilowog ends up with a staff as opposed to a ring. I do kind of like his uniform though. So they all start open up a can of whoop ass, and the light pirates. They're trying to figure out. They come to the conclusion that okay, this is real nice and we're fighting and all, but we really should figure out a way to get the hell out of this place and escape. Right at that moment, the side of the light pirate ship gets blasted, and guess who came back? It was Relic and Krona, and Jon Stewart's like, they came back, and of course Krona, of course we did. We're allies, are we not? Krona, even when he has a good moment, we still know he's a dick. All the light pirates all the lightsmiths fly off, including the Green Lanterns now, and of course, pretty much the Alliance really doesn't last very long because all the other color lightsmiths with their life staffs, they go off in their opposite direction to continue their war of light. But the Green Lanterns pretty much all come together, including Kilowog. And there's hundreds of lanterns we still have to account for, and we don't know where Mogo is, and Mogo, of course, he's got the central power battery. So Relic says, all is not lost. With your with the energies you wield, they're kind of distinct, and with my technology, we should be able to find, pretty much what you're looking for. And so, basically Relic and Salak are working together inside Relic's ship, and Salak says, I'm not sure if he can hear me, but I can hear him. There's a great deal of interference, but the pain, the anguish is coming through loud and clear. Mogo is screaming, and we see Mogo is basically under attack by the green, the yellow, the orange, and the red central power pyramids of the Lightsmiths and Relics universe. Next issue, one bad Mogo, as opposed to Mofo, I'm assuming.
Cullen, you know I love you, man.
And we do, especially your work on Sinestro.
But you need to stop with this bullshit, Afghanistan stuff that you're doing with John. I get it. I know what you're trying to do. It's not working. Okay? It's serving nothing other than to mirror the current action going on in the story you're trying to tell. I get it that your book is being canceled, and I get it that by the time we review this, the scripts and everything's already been completed, and this is all a moot point. But this showing the past of Jon Stewart to mirror and amplify the current action happening within the current storyline that is happening within your title is not working. It didn't work in issue 1. It's not working here in issue 5. Don't do it. The only time you should do a flashback sequence like this is if you are using it to highlight a character moment for Jon Stewart or for any character that you're trying to present. And if the exact same character trait that you're trying to amplify about the character is already being displayed and elaborated upon in the storyline you're already telling, then you don't need the flashback. So there's that. Otherwise, I thought it was cool. Thought Salick was kind of a dick for not believing in Badge.
Oh, okay. I guess I could see that. I think that's just kind of like, almost like the protocol officer in him, that he's got to come. You got to come up with Plan B and Plan C. I can understand that, but
Yeah. Drew dying, didn't like it.
No, I really like Droog.
I guess somebody had to die, but whatever.
There were other Lanterns in this group. I think they could have killed off before Droog.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, there's not much here. Obviously, guys, there's a reason this book is going to get canceled or is being canceled in favor of something else or whatever. But I thought, I did like how, and I like how they, out of all the Lanterns that, the R Universe Lanterns that got a staff, it was Kilowog because he physically looks the most like the beings from this universe.
That is true, actually. That's a good point.
So that was interesting. But I like how he adapted to it super quick. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this particular issue. I just, it's just kind of there right now. Even the cliffhanger of Mogo is screaming didn't do much for me.
I did kind of like the brief moment that you have when after all the Lanterns and Lightsmiths are pretty much back online with weapons, when John's fighting next to the yellow Lightsmith. And John's like, in my time or this one, I'll never get used to working alongside a yellow fearmonger. And the fear Lightsmith goes, no, before the dimming, all the Lightsmiths work together for the greater good, which is kind of interesting. So you get to the point that in Relics universe, everybody kind of worked together until the light started to fade. And that's when they all started, fighting for the light that was left, as opposed to our universe where, barring a crisis, all the Lanterns, all the different colors usually are fighting amongst themselves.
Well, we knew that before this.
No, I know, but it is true. But it just kind of contrasted with what we see with our Lightsmiths even more. I know it is kind of like rehashing an old point, but again, for people who didn't read it during Lights Out, who kind of didn't in the Relic one shot or whatever, who really didn't pick up on that. Maybe they wouldn't know that it was mentioned before. But I thought, but I do like the contrast how in there, how they fall into they're falling into the end of this universe, and they're seeing all these Lightsmiths that are just doing all these things that that the Green Lanterns themselves don't really comprehend, how you could do this, how you could do that, and now kind of working together trying to solve the problem. And then the reality is they've always worked together to solve they've always worked together. Now, maybe because they've never had a crisis before, they just, their natural instincts to worry about themselves take over, compared to our universe where our lanterns almost, they come together here and there, in small groups to work together, but as a whole, as core and core and core, that they usually are off doing their own thing, and the only time they come together, but they do it well, is when there's a crisis. So it's interesting. I thought it was interesting anyway, but.
Hmm.
But there's not a lot to mine in this issue. There really isn't. I thought this was probably the least successful of the 5 so far.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, something big obviously happens, and they escape, and it's all well and good there. But there's not a lot there for me.
I agree.
All right, Sinestro number 16.
Probably the best of the bunch.
Sinestro number 16 with, of all things, its variant cover is Monsters of the Month. It is a meme. It's Grumpy Cat.
Yes.
Painted to look like Sinestro. It says, "Nothing frightens me. I am fear." Fuck you. And the house you rode in on. Or whatever, horse. I don't know. All right, so this storyline is called Meeting of Kings. Writer Cullen Bunn, pencils Brad Walker, and Ethan Van Sciver.
And you can definitely tell when the Van Sciver art begins.
Yep. Inks by Drew Hennessy and Van Sciver. Colors by Jason Wright. Letters Dave Sharp. And, of course, we open up, actually not where we left off. We open up on Kahndaq, if I'm saying that right. Don't have a lot of Black Adam experience in my life. But anyways, there's a lot happening here, but I'm going to give the 1,000-foot, and we can get into the details as we see fit later on. Basically, the Sinestro Corps arrives on Earth on Kahndaq. Now, I say the Sinestro Corps, and by that I mean Sora and Sinestro and Lysa, and kind of the select group of lanterns that we've been seeing throughout this. Of course, as they show up, they are greeted enthusiastically by the citizens of Kahndaq. These people, are giving us gifts, and Raijin says, they honor us with fruit. I would have expected butchered livestock, but fruit. And she says, Becca, that's her name. Totally forgot. Says, from what I've heard, the ruler of the city suffers no insult. Take care, Raijin, or you may see a different sort of butchery. And Il Tipper has, at times, gotten the better of me. Not today, though. Today, Black Adam stands before you as a friend. And you see Black Adam striding. Is he floating or is he walking?
I think he's walking.
Okay.
It's a fine line, but let's take a look at the next page to give an answer. I think he's walking, but if he could be hovering slightly off the ground. No, he's got to. You know what? Let me take that back. He's got to be floating, because look at the guy in the bottom right panel. He's looking up.
Yeah.
He's floating.
Yeah. Sora is immediately smitten with him. And basically, Sinestro and Black Adam greet one another as they have, history with one another. It says, see Forever Evil, number 7, which, sidebar. That's a pretty good thing to see. Forever Evil is like a year or two ago, so there's that. That's quite a far away issue to be referencing this far along.
And you still haven't read Forever Evil, right?
Parts of it, yeah.
The Sinestro Black Adam parts. I mean, I think I mentioned before, Forever Evil was, I thought, really, really good, but the Black Adam Sinestro relationship was really, really cool in that, so I'm glad they're coming back to it.
So, because he's the king and his friend has shown up, we're going to have a party. So they do. Because, not only that, it's the duty of the king to attend the comfort of his guests, and Sinestro says, I noticed this comfort only extends so far. Is there but one chair in your kingdom? And Black Adam says, hospitality is not today's only message, and looks smugly at Sinestro. So Sinestro creates a construct throne right next to Black Adam, and they share a good laugh about that. Then they get down to brass tacks. Sinestro tells him why he's shown up. It's the paling, and that he, his quest in trying to save and police the universe and substitution of the Green Lantern Corps. Because what does he say? He says, okay, my predecessors, the Green Lanterns, never seemed to learn the lesson that once you've attained the position of power, your enemies will come for you. And he says they were always on the defense against one threat or another, but I plan to proactively eliminate it. So he's, actively seeking out more knowledge about the paling. And the reason he's come to Kahndaq is because evidently the paling has visited here before, and Black Adam went up against them then as well. He says, they came as subjugators. I drove them back. I faced their champion in battle, forced them back into the dark places from which they came, so on and so forth. Only the most learned historians know this tale. This is to my liking. My people do not need to know the details of every battle I have won. They only need to know that they are safe. Sinestro asks if there are records. Black Adam says, yes, but they're forbidden to outsiders, and but you're the king, you can make an exception, and you'll show me for the sake of the universe, for the sake of your people. And Black Adam concedes to this, but says only for you. Sinestro says, the king and I have matters to attend. Head back to War World, and Sora does, not Sora. Lysa doesn't like this. She says, I should be by your side. He says, my ring's going to record anything anyways, so get the hell out of here. So they all leave. Black Adam says, we have to walk over to the records because it's a sacred pilgrimage and we are bound by sacred laws. We must humble ourselves and take this journey not as gods but as seekers of knowledge. They walk a lot. They get there to one of the tombs. They go down. Sinestro, kind of goes, oh, this would be very fascinating to me. As my past life, I was an archaeologist, and all of this. So they get down to the catacombs, and these zombie kind of things rise up to attack them. Black Adam's like, worry not. They listen to me. He says, I am Teth Adam. I am your rightful king. Return to your resting places and trouble me no more. They're not listening to him, so they have to fight him. They do. Black Adam is like, well, this is kind of odd. And Sinestro's like, I'll trust you will warn me of any other surprises. And he says, it cannot be. And he says, what is it, Sinestro? What troubles you? This is the body of the pale bishop, but I know this creature. I know where it came from. This thing is tied to my ring? And he says, yes, your ring. This corpse rises up and says, yes, your ring, your emotion. The blasphemy of fear has roused me. His eyes light up, and it says, the pale bishop lives once more, and the purging, the Inquisition begins anew. And Sinestro screams, it's a guardian of the universe. Next, Battle for Earth. So, a guardian. Again.
But it kind of makes sense.
Yes.
And even, good.
I think it's either Appa Ali Apsa,
who's been warming up in the bullpen ever since Blackest Night ended.
or less likely, but even more awesomer, would be Dowley. Don't ask me to say his full name. Dowley is the guardian that was in Ganthet's Tale, guys. Just for those of you who don't remember it. No, not the leprechaun guy that Ganthet recruited to help them fight, but the one that was married Dolly the Guardian that was married to a Zamoron and had 2 kids or whatever. I think that's this is either Dolly or it's Appa, one of the two. If it turns out to be alternate universe Krona or some bullshit, I'm gonna have a shit fit. But
Yeah, I don't think it won't. I don't think. I feel confident it's not going to be Krona. They probably have bigger plans for Krona.
speaking of, okay, so for those of you who listen to this, yeah, okay, so as you listen to this on Sunday, Mark and I actually, you'll hear Mark and I appear on another show, the Secret Origins podcast. What if this is Harupa? That's another option, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't one of the ones that they didn't bring. That's. I'm trying to go back and remember once the Guardians came back after the Ion storyline, and once they were, after Rebirth when they were aged. None of them were. Did they ever have any? Did they ever refer to each other as names other than Ganthet and Sade?
I don't remember.
Because I know Harupa. I do remember Harupa's name being mentioned, but I don't remember what storyline. So it could be. It could. I mean, it would. Yeah, but I don't. But would they turn Harupa into a jackass?
I don't know.
Um,
No, but just for those of you, Ryan Daly's The Secret Origins podcast, Secret Origins, or Secret Origins or Secret Origins podcast.wordpress.com. It's on iTunes. Really great show. Mark and I appeared on there talking about the issue of Secret Origins that covered the Guardians of the Universe and the Floronic Man.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, we only talked about the Guardians origin, but that episode is releasing this Sunday. So definitely check that out. And Harupa, by the way, the reason we bring him up is because Harupa was the Guardian that the whole origin of the Guardians was pivoting around, as it was a tie-in to Millennium. So that's what we're talking about.
So it appears that Harupa was brought back, one of the Guardians that Kyle brought back, and it says, ironically, whether this is accurate or not, where I'm reading it, that it says his former mentor Krona later infected him with the Butcher entity. So supposedly the Guardian. So supposedly
during War of the Green Lanterns, the specific Guardian that had.
Yeah. So according to what I just read, if that's accurate, that means Harupa was actually the Guardian who was infected with the Butcher.
Okay, well then it can't be Harupa because those Guardians were murdered by Sinestro.
Yes, it's got to be somebody, and
Appa or Dolly.
See, normally you would think it would be Appa because he would be the one people would have more ties to, but again, you're going back to he's buried on Earth, and he's been buried on Earth for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that matches Harupa. I mean, matches Old Timer because the fact that he didn't even die on Earth. He has ties to Earth because of the hard traveling hero stuff. But I think
it could be just the Guardian as opposed to we have.
No, I think they're going to name. I think you're onto something that they're going to. I think they're probably going to name the Guardian, and it might. And I think it's probably they're going to. Could be wrong. I think it will be a name we've heard before. So you might very well be right. It is interesting that you could make a case that the bandages they have on are the same Malthusian bandages like Krona did. But he was trying to heal himself. Which doesn't mean that it's Krona. It just means that obviously it's kind of a trick that they use to heal themselves. So you might be right. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed if it's Appa, but I think in the bigger picture it makes sense that it's a Guardian because even as you mentioned when the Pale Vicars first showed up, that they kind of were creating another core, you said, or they might be creating another core, even though it wasn't a true core based on how we understood it, because they weren't using emotion. It was the absence of emotion. And then it makes perfect sense in a way when you really think about it that an old school Guardian would be against it because they were completely not like old school everything dancing into the running in the forest, watching the butterflies Guardians, but the Guardians that we have known for the most part have been pretty anti-emotional. They've been against the use of emotions for the better part of the last few, like maybe millions of years, if not billions of years. So it would make sense that a Guardian would be behind a movement to try to wipe out emotion. So I think it's. Yeah, I knew about that because the surprise reveal because of the fact that I read it online, but I thought it was pretty clever though. I think it works.
Oh, hey, check it out. The page where Sinestro is recapping the history of the Pale Vicars. Look at this, the second panel. Look at those beings.
Going back there, going back
Not the
there.
pale, not the
Oh,
paling. I'm talking about the
Kilowog?
beings. Yeah, I.
Yep.
It looks like they're trying to tie it into. Oh God.
Bolivar Vix.
Yeah, Bolivax Vix. Yeah. So maybe they're the reason Bolivac Vix was destroyed. I doubt they're gonna take it that far, but it's nice shout out.
But it is interesting, the way it's. No, I thought I liked this issue a lot. The art was really good, especially when the Van Sciver art kicks in.
I do like that because I remember in an interview with Van Sciver, pretty sure in one of the documentaries I have on comics, he mentions how one of his favorite things about drawing the lanterns, one of the subtle changes they made is the blacks. So if you're looking at the first couple of pages in this issue, where you see the Sinestro Corps, where it's obviously drawn by what's his name?
Walker.
Yes. And look at the blacks on their costume. Now they're shaded and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not solid black like they are with.
Yeah, and then you get to any time that Van Sciver's drawing, and there is no shading whatsoever other than the distinguishing lines between like arm and body.
Right, which again it contrasts directly with how he draws Black Adam because there is shading on Black Adam's costume.
Exactly, because to Van Sciver, the costume of a lantern, the black parts, it's energy. So it should just be a solid black. It's not. There is no material there to be reflected off of. It is light, and black is the absence of light, so it is just solid black. There is no reflection whatsoever. So that's pretty cool.
There are lots of. I mean, I like the whole Lissa stuff with Sinestro. I like the fact that she just she tries to cock block Black Adam basically there. It's like, hey, you're supposed to be with me. It's like, you gotta take me with you. You gotta take me with you. And then Sinestro's kind of like, oh, don't worry, I got it under control. And then Black Adam's like, who is she? She's your consort, your concubine. And he goes, no, nothing. She's just the keeper of the book of records. And he's like, well, then why were you whispering to her essentially? And it's like, you of all people should know about how you need to keep your enemies close. So. And Van Sciver does draw a good Sora.
Mm-hmm.
And not just for the two obvious reasons. I just like the look on her face when they're all flying back up the war world, because you can tell that she's got, her wheels are turning in regards to Black Adam. Actually, she looks a lot like her father in that picture if you really look at her face.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially the way her eyes are, she looks very much like that's a Sinestro kind of look. But I liked the reteaming of Sinestro and Black Adam. I think it works well in the storyline. It's cool. As somebody else who I pointed this out or made this comment that it's kind of good to see that villains, have friends. That villains are friends. It can be friends too. That just because you're a villain doesn't mean that you hate everybody and you don't get along with anybody. No matter what kind of douchebag you might be, there's probably somebody who you get along with and somebody that likes you.
And of anybody, it makes sense with Black Adam, because Black Adam is a villain, but he's also right in line with Sinestro. Like you can look at Black Adam as a villain, or you can look at Black Adam as
like an anti-hero or something.
Yeah, and he wants to do right by his people. He just thinks there's a very specific way to go about it. He is a king, he is a ruler, and all this stuff, and there's a very specific way to go about getting the things he wants for his people. But he's not gonna stand by and let somebody else try and. Same with Sinestro. Like they share a mindset. They're not just out and out insane villains.
Nope.
There's a inherent understanding to their motives too.
I mean, I like Walker's art too, but it's really too bad Van Sciver wasn't drawing this book all the time. I know. I mean, you pointed out that some of the things that you aren't 100% happy with sometimes about Ethan's art, but it's kind of now that we've actually gotten a decent amount of Ethan's art in Green Lantern related books over the last year again, whether it's doing some covers or actually doing it's nice, and certainly interiors in this book, and he's going to be doing the Edge of Oblivion uh, mini. That it would be really nice if he was drawing a Lantern book regularly. That would be really nice. And since Sinestro is kind of the one he's I don't know if he's best known for Sinestro and the Sinestro Corps, but that's got to be right up there. So I think that would kind of be a really good book for him. But I like it. I think this is probably my favorite book of the month.
Yeah, it was really good.
And the cover is cool too when you see Sinestro's face reflected in the lightning off of Black Adam's chest.
Yeah, I do like that cover.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
If I was a big Black Adam fan too, I'd probably get that as a poster if I could. That's really good art.
It is. It's very cool. So I think this issue I think this is one of the better issues we've had in Sinestro from top to bottom for a while. I think the last few have kind of been probably because I think they kind of gone off track a little with the whole Lobo stuff. That I think this kind of gets it back on track a little bit more to what the book was. Plus it goes back to getting us to the point where it's going to seemingly be resolving the paling issue, which has been out there since the beginning of the Sinestro series. That we're finally going to get a resolution to it as opposed to kind of detouring away from it.
Well, speaking of getting off track with Lobo
number 11 for the win. Well, maybe not, but for the conclusion. The cover is kind of cool when he's got his little spear thing with all the different Lantern Corps rings on it. Again, I don't know why there'd be so many blues when there really should only be one blue ring left. But and it's also interesting that he's got Sinestro Corps rings on it. So maybe it's just supposed to be symbolic. But Lobo number 11, another Cullen Bunn book. Let's see if we can get to the page where it gives you the whole group. The whole breakdown. Is it towards the back in this one? Yes, it is. Paid in Blood is the title of the issue, written by Cullen Bunn and Frank Barbiera. Penciled by Ropes and Roca. Inks by Rui Jose, Colored by Blonde. Those are all names that we normally don't say other than Cullen Bunn. So this picks up right where we left off last issue, where pretty much we saw Lobo wiping out Rancor, and Bleez was flying off to basically, which was news to us too, and pretty much everybody else, that somehow Atrocitus is back running the Red Lantern Corps. There's a new Red Lantern power battery. There's recruits. So we have the Rage Mother basically which is a pretty cool looking character. It's kind of from a distance, it looks like a xenomorph, but when you get close to it, you see it's got an entirely different face. That she's kind of like holding the central power battery, the Red Lantern power battery above her head. You have Atrocitus still wearing kind of like almost like some, at least bottom half of like a clerical robe almost. Preaching to the Red Lanterns, rise, children of the Rage Mother, claim your destiny. You get the whole bum 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 bum. The rings pretty much fly out and go onto these recruits. We get a little bit of an origin, or a little bit backstory anyway, about the Rage Mother, that she originally was a victim of the Yellow Lanterns, and her flesh, her very being, was torn asunder by their deceit and corruption. But now she is a harbinger of suffering, servant of the great anger, and from her blood you shall be reborn. And in the midst of all this, we have narration by Lobo, who's kind of watching all this, and he realizes, like Atrocitus is going to be trouble, and these guys are fueled by rage, and he kind of has no idea about the Rage Mother, but she's got the battery, and that's the important target. We have the new recruits, which is a lot of them are pretty cool looking actually. Nice splash page of them all, reciting the Red Lantern Oath. And while they're all getting all pumped and primed for battle, and Atrocitus is giving his pep talk, Lobo is basically targeting them, and Logo engages the Red Lanterns, and Dexstar is using his cat-like predator instincts and everything to go sniff out Lobo, and basically, unfortunately, Dexter does find Lobo, but maybe he's kind of like a split second too late, and he gets cut in half by Lobo, and that kind of logically enough, as any pet owner would know, that kind of really pisses off Atrocitus. It's like, your rage was great. Atrocitus really seems upset. It's like, you will be avenged, blood for blood. And at least we have a little bit in the narration here of Lobo acknowledging that the Red Lanterns are are hardcore, if for no other reason because of the napalm that they puke out. Lobo really doesn't have much of an issue with the majority of the Lanterns, but he does have a big issue with Atrocitus. Atrocitus hovers over him and is, I can feel the rage in your heart. Will it be enough to save you, Hunter? And he drips his napalm on him, and it starts burning through Lobo's face. And Lobo actually acknowledges that this is a real problem for him because he cannot heal faster than it's eating him away. So he's eating him alive, basically. So he's got to get out of there. So so he basically, it's time for a distraction. He uses some more of his weapons to get out of there. Sets off a few explosions. Lobo pretty much he sets a trap for the Red Lanterns, and more Red Lanterns fall into it. Another explosion. Some of them get blown apart. And obviously this must be. It's probably safe to assume at this point, Chad, that Cullen Bunn likes flashbacks. Probably.
Yep.
because this is, I think, the second time in the issues that they've been Lantern centric that we go back to basically Lobo lamenting, I guess, the loss of his love, and so about how Lobo, how that this time Lobo uses it to say, Atrocitus thinks he knows my rage, but he has no idea where I come from, no idea what I've done. The difference between me and him, I control my rage, make it a weapon, and the Red Lanterns are consumed by it. Lobo takes out pretty much all the Red Lanterns at this point, except for Bleez and the Rage Mother, and Atrocitus, of course, and Atrocitus and he engage in a final battle. For some stupid reason, again, misinformation, I suppose, that Lobo thinks that the key to destroying a Red Lantern is, the heart, basically. Sinestro says the rings are connected to the heart, which I guess they kind of are, but not the way Lobo thinks, because he stabs Atrocitus in the heart, and it doesn't really do anything, but then, Atrocitus pretty much blows Atrocitus apart, and then that's when he realizes that, the Rage Mother and Bleez have left, and then, Bleez says, Rage Mother, my liege, embrace the fury, endure, and then she pukes out all this napalm, endure, and then, basically all the blood that she pukes up pretty much starts solidifying, and Bleez is like, what is... And then we see all the Red Lanterns, including Atrocitus, including Dexter, and all the new recruits that were just destroyed by Lobo. They pretty much have all been reborn. And as the Rage Mother herself says, the Red Lanterns are reborn. Behold, beings of pure rage. Ha ha ha. Paid in blood. Again, that's the title. And of course, the next issue, Drug Run, which doesn't sound anywhere near as interesting.
So what I don't like about this issue is something that's not even in this issue. I read Lobo number 12 today. None of this anywhere in there.
Well, that's what I figured. But I almost said that when I mentioned the title, that I think issue 12 is it skips the whole Lantern-like arc before Hal comes back in. It's not even titled Sinestro Rising, that issue, is it?
No.
Because this one was also another Sinestro under the Sinestro Rising banner. So that's kind of weird. Even though
I'm saying we get a whole Red Lantern centric issue, and it's it ends on this kind of Red Lanterns are back, and they're not done yet note, and then nothing.
Well, I guess maybe the point of that is just so Lobo at some point is going to tell Sinestro, yeah, I wiped out Atrocitus. I wiped out most of the Red Lanterns except for this chick and the one who's carrying the battery, and eventually, of course, Sinestro's going to find out. Surprise! 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 That's a cool ass page though, when all the Red Lanterns are reborn though. They look
Yeah.
pretty cool. And I'm glad Dexter is back, because even as we kind of talked about last issue review episode, I would have been really pissed if Dexter was killed off again by Lobo, because I know he's powerful and yada yada yada, but I think these characters deserved a little better than they got. I guess I can live with Monk buying it. I think Rancor kind of got the shitty end of the stick too in last issue, but at least in this episode, in this issue, excuse me, at least Lobo acknowledges that the Red Lanterns are a real threat to him multiple
Yeah.
times. Even before he gets into the battle and he gets puked on, he realizes, well, if I don't get out of here, if I don't get out of here, certainly if I get puked on more, but even what's on my face, if I get a little more of the stuff on me, that it's going to destroy me faster than I can heal. So I kind of like the fact that at least we know theoretically that under the right circumstances, Atrocitus could take this guy out. So, but so I. And it's good to know that that at least one Lantern Corps here is a little. They're not all going to be like pansies to him, or either pansies or patsies, just because they can get taken advantage of so easily. So
Yeah.
it was a nicely drawn issue overall. It was I like the colors in the issue.
Yeah, for sure. I want to know more about the Rage Mother.
Yes, so do I. And I want to know how Atrocitus got back to Lorfleas and Rancor to begin with, let alone being able to do another recruitment drive.
How Atrocitus got back to Larfleeze and Rancor.
Oh, did I see Lorfleas? Bleez,
Yeah.
Bleez.
Okay.
Bleez, I'm sorry, Bleez and Rancor. Why they're back in bed with him when they were fighting against him for so long in the last issue, unless they figured that since they couldn't really cut it on their own with our guy. But I like to know that. The Rage Mother is interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to touch upon that they open the door for. It's just that even last issue, when you just see Atrocitus show up and there's a new central power battery, it's like, okay, where the hell did this come from?
Hmm.
That's why I was interested when I first asked you about the annual, since I didn't get the annual when it first came out, the Lobo annual. That's why I was curious when we first talked about it, whether that had any ties into the reveal about the Red Lanterns, just because it seemed so. All of it seemed out of the blue, other than of course knowing that Rancor and Bleez were still out there somewhere.
Right. I mean, I enjoyed it. I just I don't know. It kind of left too many questions up in the air for me to be like, to walk away from it going, oh, okay, cool. Especially now that I've read 12, which came out today. It's just like, well, all right. Well, I guess we're just gonna leave this entire Lantern Corps dangling out.
So is 12? I mean, I'm probably going to get it anyway, but is 12 even worth buying from the point of view that it's a tie at all into anything? No, doesn't.
No.
Okay, so maybe I'll just flip through it.
The only thing relevant about 12, and I'll just say it now because we're not going to review it on our show, guys. Just because
it's not Lantern centric.
It's not Lantern centric. At the very end of it, it's kind of like a breather issue. So if you're reading Lobo already, I guess you'll like it because it's a break in your storyline and it's kind of Lobo getting back to, Lobo-like stuff that's been happening in his title, I guess. I don't know. I haven't been reading it. The only relevant thing is at the very end, he decides to go after certain people, the main of which is Hal Jordan. So that's really all it is. So that's really no spoiler because you guys already know that, based on solicits, that Lobo is going to be going up against or hunting down Hal at some point in the future. So that's really all that is.
So to me, it was a nicely drawn issue as a one-off issue. It was pretty cool. I certainly wasn't as annoyed about it as I was about issue 10. But yeah, but it ranks fairly high among this month's books, but I think that's because of where this month's books are. I mean, Sinestro is pretty good. Star Trek by default, even with those mistakes, I think still ranks pretty high because, again, I don't think this was a particularly strong month for Lost Army or Green Lantern. So Lobo kind of falls in the middle of the group for me. For a non-Green Lantern book, for a non-Lantern book, it had more Lantern stuff than we get in a lot of other books lately. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. again, it's just the big thing is the plot, the plot thread left dangling with the Red Lanterns. It doesn't pick up on a 12, so that's
it is an odd choice for a breather when especially. Well, of course, we're not sure if Sinestro Rising that banner is even going to show up again. Maybe it would definitely be odd if it like shows up again for like 2 more issues and just skips that one issue.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't really have much else to say about it. You have anything else to say about Lobo?
No, I think we did it justice. I hope so.
All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up our reviews of the issues. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we're back, we'll do some listener feedback
With a special guest.
That's right. That's right.
Hey listeners, it's Ryan Daly here to give you an exciting sneak peek at the Secret Origins podcast, a review show dedicated to the post-crisis Secret Origins comics. Secret Origins told or retold or occasionally reimagined the origins of many of DC's legendary superheroes, including Superman, Batman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Jonah Hex, Nightwing, Plastic Man, Batgirl, Blackhawk, Black Lightning, Booster Gold, Detective Chimp, the Legion of Superheroes, and 100 others. But I won't be alone in my coverage of these epic stories. I'm bringing the best and brightest and irredeemablest guest stars from the blogosphere and podcast community, such as Chris Franklin from the Supermates podcast.
I think this is a great idea for a podcast, and I wish I thought of it first, but it's in good hands.
Chris and I are going to be reviewing the first issue of Secret Origins, which tells the story of the Golden Age Superman. And now, Chris, I don't know if this has ever come up before on your own show, but would you say you're much of a Superman fan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am definitely a Superman fan. Superman, the movie, is still my favorite movie of all time. That's my Star Wars. I don't remember a time when I didn't know who Superman was.
Tim Wallace from Cord Industries, a blog devoted to Blue Beetle.
My close friends would probably tell you that Aquaman was my favorite hero, and they wouldn't be too far off from the truth, but there was already a pretty decent blog covering Aquaman, so I went for my number 2, which was Blue Beetle. And this issue actually has a lot to do with why he's one of my favorites.
Luke Giaconetti from the Hawkman blog Being Carter Hall and the Earth Destruction Directive podcast. Thank you for having the enthusiasm to talk about Halo, because this is not a character that I know much about.
It's I'm one of the oddballs in that I'm an Outsiders fan who doesn't like the Teen Titans. So I figure I'm pretty much required to do my due diligence in defending the members of the Outsiders team, especially one of the originals.
Siskoid from Siskoid's blog of Geekery and the Hero Points podcast.
One of the subjects I keep returning to is Golden Age superheroes. I like exploring the history of comics, and especially DC Comics, which has the biggest load of Golden Age heroes. In Secret Origins is full of these because Roy Thomas wrote half the series or so, and just like he wrote a lot of Golden Age heroes and brought Golden Age heroes to our attention in the 80s, which was when I started reading comics.
And of course, Rob Kelly from the Fire and Water podcast.
The plan was, all this time, once we finished Who's Who, we were going to do the Secret Origin series. That was our next big project. And you have swooped in and stolen it, and I'm just saying, you better not screw this up. I mean, you're on episode 4, and you brought in your biggest guest star yet. But from here, if it's just downhill, I'm going to be really ticked off that you ruined our idea.
I wasn't really listening to any of that. Plus more incredible guests, including Sean Engel, Chad Bokelman, Kyle Benning, Nathaniel Wayne, Paul Scavito, Greg Arajo, Tom Panarese, Doug Zawissa, Aaron Moss, Alan Middleton, Max Romero, Gene Hendricks, Stella, Ange, Diablo Frank, and possibly even more. Join us as we uncover the secret origins of all your favorite DC heroes, except for Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, and Supergirl, and the Huntress, and Red Tornado, and Mira, and Aqualad, and John Stewart, the Green Lantern, and Wildcat, and Metamorpho, and Geoforce, and Mr. Terrific, and Snapper. The Secret Origins Podcast.
This is John Stewart, Green Lantern of Sector 2814, and you are listening to the LanternCast.
Trekker Talk, a fan podcast devoted to the adventures of 23rd century bounty hunter Mercy St. Clair from the pages of Trekker Comics by creator, writer, and artist Ron Randall. I'm Darren.
And I'm Ruth. We'll be discussing the stories, characters, and art in this excellent retro sci-fi adventure series, as well as having side conversations about other areas of fandom.
We hope you'll join us as we travel from the dangerous back streets of New Galuf to the depths of outer space and everywhere in between.
Trekker Talk is available at podbean.com and on iTunes and Stitcher.
This is Daryl Banks, and whether it's brightest day or blackest night, you should be listening to the LanternCast.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am back!
You need to take the trash out.
Hey, I'm trying to make a trailer for our podcast.
Oh, you mean Supermates, the husband and wife geekcast?
Why, yes, that is what I mean. The show where you and I discuss all things geeky. Comics, TV, movies, books, you name it.
Well, are you going to tell them that you can find the show at www.supermatescomic.blogspot.com?
Well, I think you kind of already did.
And that new shows will be posted bi-weekly, every 2 weeks?
I was, but you just kind of did that too.
Well, see, now you can go take out the trash.
Great.
So join us, Cindy
and Chris
Franklin, for the Supermates, the husband and wife geekcast at supermatescomic.blogspot.com.
Okay, guys. As it told you, we're gonna do some listener feedback. We actually have some listener feedback to get through, and one of which is a pre-recorded segment, motherfuckers. So let's play the jingle.
Time is it, Jeffrey Peterson? Sex party.
No, it's not sex party time. Try it again.
Let me guess. Tweets and emails.
Yes, tweets and emails.
Hey, Jeff, you want to get tweeted with me tonight? Well, all right. Pedal to the metal, getting there soon. Drag me out of bed and gag me with a spoon. I need your love, I can't relax. Without your touch, I'm rolling to the max. So hit me with your tweet mail.
All right, so first up, you want to introduce this one, Mark?
This one is from Dan.
Yay.
Dan Kurtzky's back, and he's not pissed off. We thought he might be, based on the reason why Chad wanted, kind of like teased him into leaving a message about the events in Lobo in general. But pretty much Dan will give his thoughts on Lobo and the Green Lantern books as a whole, which is pretty cool.
All right, so Dan left us a pre-recorded and pre-edited and background music.
I know, the background music is a nice touch.
Like almost 10-minute message. So let's go ahead and play that. And when we come back, we'll talk about it real quick.
Hey everybody, it's Dan! Yay! Our own Chad Bulkelman texted me recently, repeatedly nudging me to catch up on Lobo and send in my thoughts on issue 11. He was very adamant about wanting me specifically to weigh in on issue 11 of Lobo, so I of course started thinking, who do I love that Lobo is gonna kill? Jon Stewart's due, but he's off in his own universe, so he's safe. Are they gonna somehow find and blow up the Mosaic world? I don't know. So I got issues 10 and 11 of Lobo, and I'm immediately intrigued with the premise of Sinestro contracting Lobo to hunt down and eliminate non-Yellow Lanterns. I mean, it makes sense. Sinestro's resources are needed elsewhere, and now's the perfect time to thin the herd while the Greens are missing. The action in these issues gets a little repetitive, though, as everything Lobo says and does seems to be kind of on loop, and there's never any real creativity to the way the Lanterns fight back against him. I know Lobo can hold his own against a Kryptonian, but still, everyone went down too easily. Lobo used the power of main character to win these fights. I will give them this, though. The tension is there. The fact that we're plowing through cannon fodder lanterns left and right, while also taking known lanterns like Monk and Rancor off the board, makes you wonder how far they'll go with this. I know this wouldn't be the first time we've seen an entire corps pared down to exactly one surviving member, and the main Inare Bunny's lantern of that color is usually safe, but it's still enough to make me wonder what'll happen to Indigo 1 when I turn the page. Characterization is a big problem, though. I know they've been through some rough times, but Bleeze and Rancor were utterly unrecognizable as characters based on what was coming out of their mouths. I love Colin Bunn on Sinestro. I think he nails that cast, but I really hope it's his co-writer on Lobo that's to blame for most of this, because I don't think the Bleeze Rancor scene was written by anyone who ever actually read the second half of the Red Lantern series. Still, though, as soon as I saw Bleeze rush home to the other Red Lanterns that have secretly been rebuilding their ranks, my first thought was, they're gonna kill that damn cat, aren't they? And lo and behold, Lobo chops Rage Kitty, my spirit animal, in half. And at this point, the violence in these issues start feeling like an empty waste. Not because Rage Kitty is one of my favorites. Taking out waves of random lanterns we've never seen before doesn't mean anything, because we don't care about them. Taking out second-tier lanterns that we do know, like Monk and Rancor and Rage Kitty, praise be his name, throws them away for seemingly no reason. And killing a main lantern like Atrocitus falls flat because the method makes no sense. Lobo figures that because the Red Ring is linked to the heart, he can bypass the power by stabbing Atrocitus in the heart and then annihilating him with gunfire. Only a Red Lantern's heart doesn't do anything. The ring replaces it. There was a scene in Blackest Night where Atrocitus' heart was ripped out of his body, and nothing happened because the body and ring don't need it for anything. But the worst part of the wholesale slaughter of the Red Lanterns was the fact that it was literally for nothing, as some mysterious Rage Mother just magically restored them all at the end of the issue anyway, reducing all those pages of illogical murder to being just a waste of time. Atrocitus being killed that way would have sucked, but at least killing him would have been something significant happening with an important player. I also don't really understand the point of going back on it with Atrocitus, Rage Kitty, and a bunch of new random Reds, when all those other deaths are gonna stick. Maybe it would help to know anything significant at all about the Rage Mother, or what her powers even are, because she's literally nothing but a walking Deus Ex Machina right now. So yeah, I was disappointed to see Rage Kitty die, and I felt like I wasted my time when it all came undone at the end. I think I'm done with this particular story arc. I don't really care how it ends, and the overall quality isn't anywhere close to where I'd want it to be. Though I am tempted to pick up Lobo 13 because he's fighting an overpowered Hal Jordan, so it might be nice to see Lobo get his ass kicked. I probably shouldn't hold my breath, though, as Lobo's being written in a kind of Mary Sue-ish way in these two issues. He's the toughest and the smartest and great at everything, and he's edgy and he wins all the time for no reason other than the title of the book being Lobo. Beyond that, the Lantern books are in pretty good shape for the most part. The Hal book is in a state right now that I much prefer to the usual status quo. I love his look, I love the gauntlet. Yet the whole ragtag gang and a talking ship flying around in a universe cut off from the Green Lantern Corps all gives me good memories of the animated series. Hal, the renegade, having to search for the Corps and deal with their absence is infinitely more interesting than the story of Hal being on the run from the Corps, which is the story I thought they were going to tell. Lost Army? I was behind on that book when I found out it was ending, and I thought that was a real shame. Then I got caught up, and now I say it's probably for the best. Something about that book took a hard turn a few issues in. By the time they all wake up in jail, the overall quality of the book has taken a dive. They've got so many interesting questions to try and answer, but they keep spinning their wheels before even getting to ask any of them. I'm officially tired of them talking about whether or not Krona and Relic can be trusted, and would like very much to move on from them establishing that they're in the pre-Big Bang universe Relic came from. I hope I like the Edge of Oblivion miniseries more than this, though I still find it really weird that it's the exact same book about the exact same characters doing the exact same thing, only it's being relaunched under a new name with new creators. Was this a sales thing? Did they need at least another year to move the core around, but weren't confident in the numbers to get the book to last another 6 issues the normal way? I don't know. All I know is I want the focus to be put on how they got there, who did it to them, why they did it, and what's the deal with Christmas Guy. Sinestro continues to be the best Lantern book. He's finally getting what he always wanted, just in a different color. This book has always walked that line, portraying Sinestro as someone ultimately benevolent who you should never underestimate or cross. Now that he's finally begun throwing his weight around on a large scale, we can see that he does legitimately want to help people, but he'll never do it without understanding how it'll benefit him, and he'll do whatever brutal thing he needs to ensure the desired results. I have not read Star Trek Green Lantern yet, but I have hope for that one. I don't know specifics, but I've got the general sense that people like it, and I mean, at this point, I'll probably just wait for the final 2 to come out and then read the whole thing at once. If it makes a significant impression, maybe I'll send in another recording. So, before I go, it's shameless plug time! As some of you already know, I started up a new solo podcast where I explore my ever-expanding fandom, be it comics, movies, video games, anime, whatever I think is interesting enough to deserve really focusing in on for an episode or 2. Sometimes it'll be all about the material itself, such as the analysis I did on Man of Steel, and other times I'll focus on concepts surrounding the material. For example, an upcoming episode is going to focus on the illusion of choice in video games. So if you enjoyed this segment I recorded for Chad and Mark to play, you'll probably like my podcast, because the length, the overall approach, and the production value is pretty much the exact same as most of my episodes, though I do put significantly more time and research into them. The name of the show is Dan's Fandom. New episodes come out every Monday and Thursday. Talk to everybody later.
Oh, such a happy little ditty. What'd you think of all that?
It was a nice piece. At least Dan definitely put some time in on that, and we appreciate that. And it's good hearing from Dan again. I think as I re-listened to it again, when we were making the episode, I obviously had listened to it before. I actually agree with most of his points.
Same here.
I don't necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily know, and this will be touched upon as we get into another feedback on this episode, actually, because the opposite view is taken about what would have made a better storyline, what we're getting with Hal now, or if the core had been not missing in action and chasing him, or him being a renegade from it. But I think I'm not entirely sure if this is the. I think it makes it's it's cool from the point of view that as Hal even referenced in this issue of Green Lantern that we just did, 45, the fact that this isn't how it was supposed to be. The whole point of him taking one for the team was to help clear the name and for them to, make him the bad guy and come after him and stuff like that. So everything Hal did to make himself out to be kind of like the scourge of the universe is right now for naught because there's nobody to hunt him down. Other than, just lone idiots who want to take him out just because he's a pseudo lantern or whatever. So I don't know if that made for a better storyline. It was not what we expected, but and we also don't know what's going to happen when the Corps comes back. I mean, based on the article that I posted the link to today about where Robert Venditti kind of is talking about his plans for at least leading up to Green Lantern 50. That it certainly seems like that down the road that Hal is definitely going to interact with the Corps again. We can pretty safely say not until the Edge of Oblivion storyline is either wraps up or is wrapping up. So it's going to be a while before that happens, but we don't know when once everybody's reunited if it's going to feel so good. Because they may pick up where they left off, and maybe Hal's still going to be Public Enemy number 1. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and hopefully Edge of Oblivion will answer some, like where the hell are the friggin' Templar Guardians? That would be a nice one to find out too. But I think. But why don't you talk about some of his points, and I'll think of other.
Well, I don't want to talk too much about his points. I will say just for saying it that I also agree with Dan's points. I just think that expanding on him is something we'll probably get to in the State of the Green Lantern universe, especially when he was talking about how it is that Lobo is able to take out lanterns.
Which was one of my biggest pet peeves, if you will, about the last issue, especially number 10. I agree.
Right.
That's a point that I definitely agree with him on, that they're making it that, and the power of the main, the power of the main character. I thought that was nicely put. I think that is true. I think it's because his Lobo is the main character, so that's why he's able to take out. And again, Monkey maybe you can stretch it and say, yeah, okay, but Rank. Yeah, come on. I think Rancor had established himself enough where he should have been able to do a little better against Lobo. But especially since obviously we've seen in the last 2 issues, Lobo doesn't exactly have a complete dossier in who he's dealing with.
Right.
I mean, so that's another big flaw one way or the other, other than the fact that Sinestro could be feeding him shit on purpose because, Sinestro doesn't like other than Sinestro, he doesn't really like anybody, so it makes a lot of sense that Sinestro would. Maybe this guy can help take out like 3/4 of the lanterns I don't like, and then maybe somebody will take him out, and then I'll be really in good shape. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Yeah, I just, that's the way I feel about it. Is I just feel like, a lot of the points is stuff that we're probably going to get to in that episode when we get to it. So, but otherwise, I agree with him and kind of expand on that once we get there. It's just that I don't know. I agree with him about Sinestro, although I feel like Sinestro is a little scatterbrained from time to time. I'm forgetting the Lobo tie-ins. If you go from Sinestro 15 to Sinestro 16, you're like, wait, what? We're all of a sudden where now? Like
they do. They no pun. They do have a lot of balls in the air at the same time. There's no doubt about that. I mean, but at least now we're starting to get like with one of the first ones that was tossed up is coming back down with the Pale Vickers and the Paling. That because we really think about it in the course of a book that hasn't been around for 2 full years yet. We've had the Pale Vickers, we've had the Korgorians, we've had the rebuilding of the Corps, the Traders of the Corps, all that stuff, whatever the subplot with Becca. We've had the whatchamacallit. Now we have Lobo. I'm probably missing something, but those are
those dudes that were hunting down.
Oh yeah, the Apex League.
There you go.
And Mongol, we forgot about Mongol. So they've really. So your point, that's pretty dead on. I think it's overall it's worked more times than it's not, but I think that's a good way of describing it. It kind of has been scattered, and it also makes you wonder. I mean, I think it's for a reason because they are trying to establish that maybe in a way it's kind of showing that Sinestro himself is kind of scattered, that he's kind of being torn in different directions, that he kind of wants to save his people, but yet now he has the opportunity to set his core up as the dominant force in the universe, and he's got to do that. So then he's got to be proactive, and he's got to deal with these guys, and he's got to make sure there's no other lanterns. So maybe they may all be part of the same goal. Most are focused in the same directions, even though the Korogorians kind of take them and pull them aside here or there. But I think we will have a better idea. I think certainly once the status where the Sinestro Corps is and what the status quo is in the universe when the Green Lanterns come back. So.
But yeah, otherwise I think kind of Dan's points speak for themselves. Other feedback?
You want me to do the Laurel one?
I can do it.
It's up to you.
Okay. Let's see. We have an email here from Laurel. Laurel, one of our listeners, Laurel. For one of the first times she's writing, and she actually wrote in before letting me know that there was an issue downloading the Ion episode, which we fixed, which she thanks us for fixing, and then she gets into her comments. Over the last 3 months or so, I've listened to all of your current issue review episodes, beginning with the number 21 issues. I like your detailed recaps and the extra time you take to get into what's happening. I often find myself laughing along with you guys as you read parts out loud with appropriate, goofy comic book voices. I don't know what you're talking about. Goofy comic book voices.
We do that once in a while.
You do.
I do it more than you do, yes. That's mostly me. Thank you, Laurel. But once in a while, you do it.
I have noticed improvements in your recap deliveries. They're much smoother now, although I think you can continue to improve by keeping a character name and description list nearby for handy reference and trying to limit using so much while doing a recap. Good point. Definitely a good point. As someone who edits these episodes, I am acutely aware of the amount of times I, in particular, say and specifically and the amount of times that Mark pauses and stuff like that. So when Mark pauses for a prolonged period of time between recaps or something like that, I have to edit those out. When I say and I try and limit those. So Mark and I both do things that doing something small like you're suggesting could definitely help us. So I definitely appreciate that suggestion.
And depending on the issue review, I definitely try to write down some notes. So I think that's maybe why it's kind of getting better. Like I know I wrote down some character names when we were doing the I think it was maybe when we did the quarterly. I wrote some of those down, and the same thing even with the I don't think it was the Ion. But I try to take some notes. I think it does make it easier. Too bad I didn't write tolerance down just before we started that episode. But then again, did it really matter all that much?
No. Your opinions are clearly stated, and you keep any rants to a decent length. Sometimes a good rant is deserved, so don't worry about holding back too tightly when you get riled up. I usually find myself nodding along with you.
That must be mostly you.
I agree with your criticism of Hal's depiction during Tan's time on the book. That's for you. I thought
it was for both of us, really, but yes, I'm the one who kind of carries that flag into battle more than you.
For an artist with such talent in every other area, like really cool-looking aliens and great location details, I don't understand why he struggles to draw Hal. I always had the impression Hal was supposed to be a very square-jawed hero, and he definitely should be filled out more than Sinestro. Tan's version is far too slim, and often Hal's face is distorted to the point that even his eyes appear uneven. Of course, Hal's current hairdo does not help the art. It's just awful. Even Van Sciver couldn't make those long flowing locks work. If the long hair is supposed to be a disguise, why has Hal been using his real name? If it's supposed to show Hal's ragged from being on his own, why is he always clean shaven? This look just doesn't make sense.
Good points.
Yep, good points. Did not think of it to look at it that way. Obviously, we've just been kind of bitching about the way he looks as opposed to analyzing it, but that's a good point. One of these things is not like the other. I think having the Green Lantern Corps disappear so soon after Hal began his renegade charade has really hurt the narrative. The Black Hand Source Wall story would be so much more interesting if Hal had to dodge the various Lantern Corps at the same time. It could really spotlight his ingenuity and resolve. I'd love to see him pit one Lantern Corps member against another's while he sidesteps them all. That fly by the seat of his pants attitude suits big chase scenes. Faster pacing would help too. Not much happens issue to issue right now. I wonder if Venditti is being held back by a timing situation with DC editorial. Fair point.
Yes, this is a good point.
Yep, I would agree. So I would agree. I wonder how many, like, I was just thinking during this episode, although I didn't say anything out loud, when we were talking about Sinestro and, like, all the balls up in the air with Sinestro, I wonder if, like, the whole reason the Green Lantern Corps hasn't yet come back into this universe, like, the whole reason the Edge of Oblivion is happening, as opposed to just Lost Army just suddenly popping him back into our universe, is what if Cullen Bunn's got this grand master plan that by the time the Green Lantern Corps pops back into the universe, he wants the Sinestro Corps to be an established peacekeeping force.
Oh yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think absolutely the plans were set in motion. I think you could make the case it was set in motion even before the Sinestro book started, but certainly, let's say from the latter, once we got close to the first year of Sinestro going forward, when it was filling out what the next year's worth of books were going to be about, once DC approved, the idea that the Green Lantern Corps just suddenly disappearing after convergence and everything, that I don't think there's a doubt. There's certainly not a doubt in my mind that the whole idea, the real reason to take them off the board was to help the idea of Sinestro having the golden opportunity, literally now, to set his Corps up as the most powerful force in the universe, as the replacement for the Green Lantern Corps, and then having the Green Lanterns come back into it once he has established it. Even if they haven't, they don't necessarily have to have a long track record under their belt, but it's clear now there's a new sheriff in town, then the old sheriff comes back in, and then to see, the conflict between that. So I'm sure that the reason why Lost Army didn't give him a one shot to wrap this up in and not do another 6 issues was just because, for that reason, that the Sinestro Corps, the Sinestro Rising concept, even though the banner may not continue, the idea that Sinestro is rising and he's about to hit his apex, if you will, potentially of power, that he's not there yet, and if he came back now, that kind of short circuits probably the plans they have for the book. So I do think they're absolutely intertwined.
Yeah, but as I was saying, what I was trying to say was, not just that, but that it causes a domino effect. We're waiting. Cullen's trying to get to a point where he can legitimately say that Sinestro and the Sinestro Corps is the established peacekeeping force in the universe, and that by the time the Green Lantern Corps show up, they just can't resume duties as usual. They have to kind of deal with that new. They can't just take out the Corps, they also have to, the universe, or part of the universe at least, trusts the Sinestro Corps to some extent.
Yeah,
and hang on one sec. And that's kind of what I was saying, is that it's causing a domino effect. It's not just that at the end of Lost Army, they can't come into the universe because of what Cullen was waiting to do with the Sinestro Corps. It's just, as a Green Lantern editorial office, all the books are affected by what Cullen wants to do with Sinestro. And Venditti on Green Lantern knows what the state of the Green Lantern universe is going to roughly be by the time Sinestro and company have to face the fact that the Green Lantern Corps has re-entered, quote-unquote, our universe. So what Venditti is doing right now is just telling what stories he can until he gets to, this mile marker that he knows is coming up. And then he's got a plan from that point on, but until then he's just kind of killing time.
I would say there's probably a lot of truth in that. I think that part of the dynamic that we're going to see is because of where the Green Lanterns were as far as how the universe viewed them when they disappeared. They were pretty much, they're either hated, they're not trusted, they're viewed as hypocritical, all that stuff. That Sinestro, yes, they're going to be able. He has the opportunity to establish a Corps which at the very least, a huge percentage of the universe, or the majority of the universe, is going to say that at least they're not the Green Lantern Corps. At least they're not hypocrites. At least they're not. At least if there's a problem in their midst, they take it out and they put a bullet in its head, like Sinestro's kind of already shown that he's scapegoats, so they were, but he's not afraid to take out, to thin his own herd if it serves a purpose and sends a message. So that the Green Lantern Corps is not just going to have a power vacuum that's already going to be filled, that they're going to be trying to fight to get back in there. It's going to be the fact that they're going to have a lot less people willing to give them a chance, because the Sinestro Corps seemingly is much more reliable, and they're not just killing people left and right. They're not just hurting people that, like we saw in the last issue of Sinestro with the Manhunters bringing down the food and the water and the supplies and how they're going to terraform, that they're actually doing good to win people over. So yeah, it will make an interesting dynamic. What if you have a Green Lantern Corps in a universe, and the universe doesn't want them, or doesn't feel like they need them anymore? So I think that's probably where we're headed.
Continuing Laurel's email here. While I like Trapper and Virgo as part of Hal's supporting cast, I don't think Hal forcing Darlene to work for him suits his character. I think he'd be more inclined to convince her to work with him rather than force her to obey, even if she is an artificial intelligence. There may be reasons we don't know about yet for his behavior, but since we've not gotten any real backstory of how he found Darlene yet, I just don't like it. I kind of agree, but for me, I more agree just because I think Darlene's starting to get annoying now as opposed to a part of the story.
Yeah, I agree. She's just kind of like being like a whiny, bitchy kind of character at this point. That she seemingly only exists to take a shot at Hal whenever she can, to spit out some sarcastic comment, and it's like you're just waiting for it,
She finishes up. She says, "I'm not sure how long it takes you to make each episode of the LanternCast, or exactly what steps you go through. If you can take a few minutes to run us through the process, that would be great. In any case, thanks for taking the time to do the show. I don't have any real big comic fans to discuss Green Lantern with, so listening to your comments helped fill in that gap. Keep up the good work, Laurel." Well, I'm going to go ahead and take the reins on that last part, mostly because it's my own fault. When Mark and I took over the LanternCast, Jim spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours on a Skype call with me, teaching me how to edit episodes. Still haven't taught Mark how to do that. Although at this point, I think just kind of from poking around on our server and kind of looking at things and things like that, you've probably gotten a natural feel for it a little bit.
Yeah,
obviously
I think so.
Not the specifics.
Yeah.
But okay, so just for shits and giggles, tonight, typically we record Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, something like that. Sometimes Thursday, sometimes weekends, but usually towards the beginning of the week. We usually start about 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as of right now, it is 11:12. Not going to matter to you when you actually hear this episode, but since Laurel asked for specifics, obviously we've been recording now, or talking or something like that, for roughly two hours, 2 hours and a quarter, something like that. That all gets recorded via a Skype call, because Mark and I are talking via Skype at the moment. That is recorded with some sort of iFree Skype recorder software. It is exported into an MP3 or WAV file, and Mark uploads it to the server. Now, typically, Mark and I both record the episode, but I'm having issues with the internet at my apartment, so I am speaking to you guys right now via the Skype app on my phone, and I can't really record our episodes on my iPhone. So Mark is recording it, and we'll upload it to the server. The next day, I download it from the server onto my work computer at work, and when I am not busy doing my actual job, in my free moments during lunch, something like that, I have a program called Audacity. It's a free audio editing program. I go in and I edit things such as ums and you knows and silences and pauses and coughs and farts and well, not farts, but you get the idea.
We've been pretty good on that front so far.
Stuff like that out of there. I add the intro, I do fade-ins and stuff like that, and to just get real technical, obviously when the Bad Mama Jammas, Daniel Cynical Adams band, gave us the intro, they gave us a full MP3 clip. Well, it's got its own sort of natural fade out, but I don't like the listeners having to come in with a straight like guitar riff at max volume, so I do a little bit of a fade in on the start of that MP3. And then I sort of overlap the fade out of the song and the start of our episode. And then I edit out all the various things. If there's a pause, I throw in promos. I have an entire library. I have an entire folder subset of promos that I can choose from that I add in, typically about 3 of them. Sometimes I intersperse those in between the promos with little clips like, this is Daryl Banks and you should be listening to the LanternCast, or, Ron Mars, or, something a little clippy like that. Then we come in. If we do feedback, I try and choose a theme of Craig Ferguson's old tweets and emails segment jingle that we haven't used in the last episode. Throw that together, add in the outro, and so on and so forth. All told, even though this is 2-hour-ish episode, it takes me about all day to edit it. Not necessarily because that's how long it takes, but just because I'm doing it at work and I have other things popping up depending on how busy I am throughout the day. It can take all day, or it can take 2 days depending on how busy I am. Once all of that is done, I make sure everything I give it one last listen through. I export it as an MP3 file and I upload it to our server with a very specific file name. And at that point, we're still not uploaded yet onto iTunes and Stitcher. There are 3 different coded files that we have to edit. Basically, I copy and paste the code from the previous episode that published, successfully, and I just edit it. I edit the description. I edit the link to the specific URL for the MP3 that we uploaded. I edit the title, all of this stuff. I make sure I have the exact size on disk that the file, the MP3 for that episode is. I make sure I have the exact length, because I totally forgot to mention this. After I export it as an MP3 file from Audacity, I import it into iTunes, edit it some more there, not audio-wise, but like adding album art and stuff like that. I get the exact time length down to the seconds of how long it is, and then I add that into the coded files. Make sure there are no typos, because if there's a single typo mishap, it'll mess up how it shows up in iTunes, or if it even shows up at all. Once I make sure it's completely fine, then I copy and paste that same code into all 3 different files, then re-upload that code back into our server, and then the episode is posted. And since iTunes and Stitcher take forever to refresh, I actually, my Surface has a podcasting app that I found that actually updates as I use it. So as soon as I pull it up, it's refreshing the most current stuff. And as soon as I select our RSS feed that I imported into the podcasting app that I have on my Surface 2, it automatically checks for the most recent content. So I can automatically tell on my Surface whether or not it went through. If I don't see it there automatically on my Surface 2, I know something is wrong. That's how it works with the LanternCast.
And then, of course, we put it on the web and the regular website too.
Yes,
making the page and having the link to the MP3 file and the player so that people can listen to it and all these stuff.
And then we also take the link once we post it to our webpage, we also take that link to our webpage and post it on Twitter and Facebook, and to a lesser extent Instagram once we get around to it, or I get around to it. So there's a lot that actually goes into it. So sometimes when scheduling demands, we can't hook up to record, or we used to record on Tuesdays, but I've kind of gotten to Tuesdays are typically my day off, guys. I'm usually off on Sundays and Tuesdays. I work in the car business, so I'm off on every Sunday. But if Tuesday happens to fall on the last day of the month, then I am not off on Tuesday, because the last day of the month is really busy in the car business.
so I have to take some other random day off during that week. But typically I'm off Sundays and Tuesdays, and I started getting to the point where I was like, actually, I can't record on Tuesday nights anymore because Tuesdays are my day off. I don't want to like end my day off early because I got to be at home to record. As much as I like doing the show, regardless of whether we're talking Ion or Threshold, both sides of the spectrum, I don't want to give up my day off. You know, I could be out drinking and hanging out with friends or watching a game or, you know, something like that. I'd rather do it Monday night or Wednesday night or Thursday night or something like that. So typically Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Lately, Mark, it's been what, like a Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah. Last week we recorded, but on Thursday we did the stuff with Ryan, right?
Yeah, the stuff for the Secret Origins podcast.
And then so Wednesday we did the Threshold episode. So yeah, I'd say probably Wednesdays have been the main day we've been recording lately.
Mm-hmm. It's also a little difficult too because ever since Mark and I took over the show, and it's not difficult, it's something I want to do. I'm big into podcasting. Mark, you said you only listen to like one other podcast regularly, and even then you're kind of behind, right?
I'm pretty much behind. The way things are going, sometimes I struggle to keep up with ours, though I think for the most part, at least as far all our regular episodes, I'm pretty much caught up with. I listened to Threshold this week, so.
You like that intro?
Yeah.
I did some awesome editing.
Yeah,
with that.
Yes, I'll pat you on the back some more, Chad. It was good.
I'm proud of myself. I'm getting to learn Audacity a little bit more every day. But anyways, because I'm big into podcasting, and I don't mean just recording a show. I like listening to podcasts. There's Sean Ingalls, just one of the guys, unfortunately ended. There's things like Ryan Daly's Secret Origins podcast, currently my favorite podcast on the internet that I'm listening to. Close second, there's Dwayne Feenstra, one of our listeners and actually a comic book creator himself, is involved with a podcast called the Final Issue Podcast. Really great show highlighting the sort of intricacies of the comics industry as a whole. Sort of a panel discussion show, really good. Taking a lot of notes and cues from that, by the way, in terms of format on for when we do our State of the Union or State of the Green Lantern Union address, because I think that's a good format to go with. Fire and Water podcast, the DC Comics Presents show. I haven't listened to an episode yet, but I started downloading the Marvel Comics Nam podcast based on the Vietnam series because I was at Half Price Books several months ago, and I saw a run of Marvel Comics the Nam in the back issue bins, and I'm talking like issues 1 through like 30 something solid. And I got like the first 12 or 20 or so of those issues because I've always heard that the Marvel Comics Nam series is really good. And I wanted to branch out a little bit because I'm not much of a comic person outside of superheroes, but I wanted to try a good war comic. So I figured, what the hell, Nam. Haven't read it yet, but I'm gearing up for that. That's why I have those episodes downloaded, and it's a whole thing. I listen to tons of different podcasts, and a lot of those podcasts are part of the Fire and Water podcast network. There's a great podcast that just came out very recently called From Darkness to Light. It's a podcast that explores, and I think I've played a promo on
yes, you have.
For us once. Yes, it's a great podcast that explores religion within pop culture. Specifically more comic-based pop culture, but it's not preachy. It's more of, you know, they are highlighting the religious aspects within. Their first main episode was covering episode 9, I think, of the Netflix original Daredevil series, where it had a very heavily religious overtone to it, and with Matt Murdock being a Catholic and his, you know, the priest being somebody he confides in, it's a whole thing. So they really delved into that, and I thought it was an interesting academic and theological approach to it. But anyways, all that to say, all that's part of the Fire and Water podcast network, and then their family of people that listen to their show and do their own podcast and so on and so forth. Well, I'm part of a group or a message thread on Facebook that occasionally gets they come up with theme ideas. That's how we got the collaborative Conway crossover caper thing that we did, because a lot of different people wanted to support Jerry Conway, And we decided as a group of podcasters, we'd all do our own spin on it. Well, one of the ideas currently being bandied about on that is, since Murphy Anderson recently passed away, what if we all do sort of a Murphy Anderson themed kind of a thing, whether it's 20 minutes or a 2-hour thing, whatever it is you do based on your particular podcast. Now, Mark and I haven't talked about it because I don't know what we could do, because Murphy Anderson was really more of an inker for Green Lantern. But if there's something we can do, maybe we'll talk about it, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. But that's in addition to what we do for the LanternCast, because I'm so heavily involved in the podcasting side of things outside of actually physically podcasting, but listening and interacting with other podcasters. Sometimes we do things like guest appearances or crossovers or stuff like that. So the Collaborative Conway crossover caper is one of them. What we just mentioned on this episode, that we appeared on Ryan Daly's Secret Origins podcast, that's another. So we do things outside of just the LanternCast, whether it's involving prep or actual recording.
Yes, it's fun, but it can be a time-consuming process.
For sure. And there are things that we want to do, like, I threw this idea out a long time ago, and even though Mike and Rich's Flashback podcast has ended, I still want to have them on and talk about the Flash Faster Friends, the Green Lantern and Flash Faster Friends 2-issue prestige thing.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, if it ever happens, no idea. But I had that idea a long time ago that we should have them on and do a crossover. Unfortunately, now it's to the point where their podcast is over, so we'd have to host, the full episode or both episodes or whatever. But still, it's an idea. So tons of stuff that we do for this to get ready for the show and promote the show and stuff like that. I have been tempted on occasion to pay the money to do an ad on Facebook for anybody who's interested in comics or Green Lantern and have it show up in people's Facebook feed, but I just can never justify the money. So there are times when I see, like, when I'm on Twitter or Facebook and I see other podcasts or character-specific fan sites or something, and their social media page has, like, likes and follows that exceed our own, and I get a little disheartened by it. But then we get emails like people, like you, that send us in this stuff. Whether it be Andy, which we'll get to in a second, or Laurel that just sent us in because we haven't heard from Laurel before. When Mark and I say send us in feedback, we mean that, not just because we want to hear from you guys, but it's also, it's comforting to know that you're out there listening and that you're enjoying it, or you hate it, one of the two, and that you're paying attention. It's more than just getting specific thoughts from other people, because Mark and I are in sync now. We're sort of know what each other is thinking in regards to these titles. It's good to hear other perspectives, but it's also really comforting to know we're not just speaking into the ether. So it's when we ask and sometimes beg for feedback, we're not doing it just because we're like, oh, give us another like on Facebook and make us more popular so we can get more interviews and whatever. It's really nice to know that people are out there listening and they care enough to spend a minute or two and write in. So that's cool.
Yes, and we've gotten a good amount of feedback over the last couple of weeks, so that's been a nice change of pace.
True. But we got an email from Andy. Do you have anything else you want to elaborate on in the posting process or anything else that Laurel mentioned?
I think you covered the posting process pretty much in good detail.
Probably too much.
Well, you lifted the curtain, so that's not a bad thing. People will, if people
somebody asked for it.
Yeah, and it could help other people who are either thinking about doing a podcast, and if they wanted to have an idea what it would entail, give or take, then you pretty much laid it all out for them. So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm skimming through our email real quick to see if there's anything we haven't touched upon. I think we did touch on every major point, I think, in her email one way or the other. So I think it was a really good email, Laurel. Please send us another one, please. So do Andy's?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
Andy Macon.
I mean, Joe also sent us one about the link, related to the Green Lantern Lost Army coming back. I think it's almost like a solicit link for the first issue of that series, which starts in January of 2016. So that's pretty cool. So hopefully that series will have a little more oomph to it than Lost Army and get us to where we need to go. So let's do Andy's email. Hi guys, started listening to the Threshold episode today, and I just saw that you want quick feedback, so here goes. For a start, I think that your approach to the subject matter was great. It was a really fun listen. I like that even though you clearly didn't want to do it, you still gave it a good shot.
Clearly.
A very pertinent comment came from Chad when you, as in you, Chad, said that despite reading it over, you still couldn't make any sense of it. While I only had vague memories of it, and I have to say that after hearing your synopsis, I'm really none the wiser. Which I think he means as a compliment, but somehow I think we failed.
With regards to Threshold, we're always going to feel like we failed.
That's true, too. But we're not the only ones.
Or we were failed as fans.
Yeah, that's right. Your failure is now complete. I think that must mean that you did a great job. You took an impenetrable story where it was impossible to identify with and invest in the characters, and you showed that it was the story that was at fault and not us, the readers. Yay! That's for you, Dan. A great job, well done. You did it so that we don't have to. Thanks for that. All the best, Andy. Well, we kind of knew that was part of the reason why people... You okay?
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm drinking some Angry Orchard hard cider and it went down the wrong throat.
You should have been drinking that during the Threshold episode.
I didn't have it then.
Didn't plan ahead. We need to take notes and have booze. Yeah, I think we know a lot of people wanted us to do that episode. I think we touched upon it in the episode just simply because they had no intention of reading it. So this way they could say, well, we know what happened in it for what it's worth without reading it, and hoping that we would at least make the episode entertaining. So I think based on limited feedback so far, I think we at least made the episode entertaining, if nothing else.
For sure. I gotta say, it was fun. It's fun editing that one too. Not just for the cool little God. I had to listen to, because those clips I got at the beginning.
I know, that was a lot of research. You definitely deserve a pat on the back for that. When I was listening, even when you sent it to me the first time, I mean, I did know, obviously, you were taking things from this episode and things from that, because you go back to LanternCast 1.0 before we took it over. Then there was stuff from when you and I were doing episodes. So that wasn't easy to just narrow it down to begin with, to find the episodes to begin with, let alone finding the clips. And then you did a good job. You did a really good job putting it together, and it works really well, especially as the pre-intro before the music.
Yeah. So I did that. I was originally the transition effect, because on my desktop at work and at home, I've got a folder with LanternCast related stuff, and I have it split up into audio and images and stuff like that, various folders. And within the audio folder, there's other folders. There's intros and outros and themes and stuff like that. Well, I also have a folder for transition effects. One of them is the static transition effect from Robot Chicken. One of them is the ring transition effect, which is just the ring sound from, I guess, Super Friends or something like that. And initially I had the ring transition effect between those two. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do this for Halloween. But we don't really mention Halloween throughout this episode until towards the end, and I really don't know if I want to find a track that just goes through like a spooky music that I want throughout the whole episode. It's like, all right, so I guess that leaves me with doing, spooky music behind the clips. So I was like, all right, I did that. But then the ring transition didn't make sense with the spooky music. So I was like, okay, let me play around. Oh, the static transition works better. So I did that, and I was like, oh, damn it. This isn't going to work. It doesn't feel like I feel like I'm missing something. And I was like, oh, creepy laugh. So what you hear there is not music that naturally transitions into a creepy laugh. It is 3 different clips from 3 different episodes. Transition effect of static between them, fade in and fade out, overlapped and with the undercurrent of creepy music, tapered off at just the right point to where there's creepy laughter right after we mentioned that we were going to do it for an episode of Halloween. And then the creepy laugh fades out, and then you go into the intro. So that was cool in and of itself. But just editing the episode together, trying to figure out, it was fun because, trying to figure out what I should take out based on pauses and ums and ohs, not just because typically you listen to those things and you go, okay, this is making our episode longer. Or, Mark, you like to pause during your recaps of things. So,
I don't like to pause. Sometimes I switch gears.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes I struggle for my next point of reference of something of relevance in the plot when I'm kind of trying to sum up a lot of stuff where nothing's happening, and I try to move it forward, and then my wheels are turning and I go silent because instead of rambling.
Well, yeah, it's better than nonsensically talking because at least it gives me a clear delineation. I can see it as I'm editing. I can see, okay, Mark's going to pause here. I can just edit this right out. As opposed to seeing a little blip and he said, something relevant that I need to somehow stitch together with the next thing he says. He just goes quiet so I can just edit out that silence. Well, when you're talking about a bad comic issue, sometimes the silences should be left in for comedic effect. So it was interesting trying to edit that episode, figuring out what I should take out just because it hampered the forward progress of the episode, and what I should intentionally leave in just because it made it funnier.
We should release the director's cut, which has an extra hour of just silence. Sporadically cut into the episode. You don't know when it's going to happen, but there's going to be some dead periods.
But that was fun. So I'm glad you liked it, Andy. And we've got some other. I know Jesse said he was starting to listen to the episode, and I know that Sean, Cajun Sean on Twitter, said he was starting to listen to it today. I told him to send us an email, and he's like, my tweet was my feedback, and I was like, psh, we don't talk about Twitter anymore.
But it was funny because I just started, I love it. It's it's a train wreck or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I hope he means as in what really the subject matter more than our coverage of it.
True, because he was one of the ones adamantly pushing us to do this episode. He was one of the ringleaders behind us trying to get us to do Threshold. So if he doesn't like the finished product, I don't know what I'm going to say to him.
Be careful what you wish for.
That's right. I'm drinking Angry Orchard right now. So you don't fuck with me. Just kidding. I'll probably put a beep there. Speaking of creative editing. Anyways, that's going to do it for the feedback on this episode. If you guys want to send us more feedback, Mark, how do they do that?
They could do it by emailing us, LanternCast@gmail.com, LanternCast@gmail.com. Please visit our website, LanternCast.com. Get our new episodes, Ringcyclopedia episodes, Dark Star reviews. There'll be more stuff coming. Don't worry, people. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Use hashtag GLCast to find us on any of those. We are on iTunes and Stitcher, so please listen to us on either or both and leave positive reviews. And last but not least, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, 708-LANTERN. 708-LANTERN, and let us know what you think.
Real quick, wanted to reiterate those reviews, guys. We haven't gotten a new review in a while. So Laurel, I know Laurel, just one of the first times you've sent an email to us, so really appreciate that. If you guys out there have been listening to us for a while and haven't yet submitted us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, please do so. Really would appreciate that. We haven't gotten a new one of those in a while. And, if you're going to leave us a review on one or the other, just copy and paste it to the other. Because we've got, I think as of right now, we got one review over on Stitcher. We have a lot over on iTunes, but it's more for the old show. There are a couple over there in regards to Mark and myself, which is awesome and great. Thank you guys for doing that. But that more happened after Mark and I had put out 10 or so episodes and people got used to us and, finally figured out that we weren't going to take the ship down with us. So
nowhere to go but up.
It's November now, so we've been at this for what, 2 years?
Yeah,
now?
I was just thinking about that. I think our first episode didn't actually get published until December, so I think probably the first week in December, or the first episode that we publish, if we put one out that week, I think that'll be our 2 years.
Yeah, so Mark and I have been at this together for 2 years now, and the LanternCast as a whole. I want to say mid-November is the actual LanternCast official when the first episode aired anniversary. So sometime in mid-November. So mid-November, LanternCast will be 7 years old. So for sure, guys. Mark and I have been at this for 2 years. The LanternCast has been at this for 7 years. We would love some more reviews on both Stitcher and iTunes. And if you leave us a review on one, copy and paste it to the other, please. Would love to see that. Or come up with a completely new one if you're a creative person. I don't care. Just leave us a review. We'd love to see those pop up. And if you do, please, 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 please email us or tweet us or post on our Facebook or something and letting us know. Because to my knowledge, I don't think we get a notification if we get a new review. So I don't want to miss it out. I don't want to miss out on it. Like, if you guys leave us a review, let us know you left it. Regardless of whether it's a sentence or like 2 paragraphs, we want to know that we have a new review. So definitely shoot us a tweet or whatever, just letting us know that it's up. Because we definitely want to, give you a shout out on the show, and thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you very much. And it's good to, and it's like Chad said, it's good to have if we can get a notice, it's good to know, because then sometimes we can plan accordingly for the episode, depending on what we're going to cover. Sometimes the subject matter is shorter, so it doesn't matter how much feedback, and sometimes it's a little longer, and we have to decide like maybe when to space it out, depending on the topic. So tonight was, today was a pretty long episode, but we fit in everything, so it wasn't really an issue.
Right. Like, for instance, Dan's voicemail thing that he left us, we got that before we started recording Threshold, but obviously we weren't going to talk about it on the Threshold episode because it was relevant to the issues that we were discussing in our current issue review. So there are times when you guys are going to send us feedback that we won't get to it immediately because we think it'd be more relevant to discuss on a different episode. So don't feel disheartened that we don't get to your feedback immediately on the next episode you hear after you send us some feedback. That just means that there's a more relevant episode coming that your feedback will be more thoroughly addressed in.
Nicely put.
All right. I'm rambling because I'm pacing and I'm drinking, so not that one Angry Orchard beer or hard cider is going to do anything to me anyways. But anyways, so guys, thank you so much for listening. Any questions or comments, reviews, just definitely let us know, and we will talk to you next time.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.